Hello, and welcome to the Anime Dumpster Dive podcast, where we go in-depth on an anime that's been considered bad by pretty much anybody. I'm your host and scythe-wielding maniac killer, Jake H. I'm joined by my co-host and killer who's obsessed with eyes, Anthony.
What? That's the worst one. That's the worst one you've ever
It's like I gave the guy with the glasses, the guy who talks about glasses all the time, the killer who focuses on eyes.
You wear glasses too!
Yeah, but you talk about it all the time.
It's my job!
Oh, there you
That's
go.
all you talk about.
And we are joined by special guest and maniac killer who wears a pumpkin on their head, Casey.
Because I talk like a child. That makes sense.
I was going to say because you're redheaded.
Yeah, that too.
Casey is a streamer and friend of the show, and he's our special guest because we're doing a series of special guests for this season, and he's our first one, and he's also covering for DJ who couldn't make it today because of prior engagements. Casey, how about you tell us about yourself?
Well, I like to stream on Twitch. I usually go, I don't know, like 2 hours a stream, and it's hella sporadic. I want to say that I should get a schedule going. I would like to start at 5, but right now it's very sporadic, and I'm a variety streamer. Anyways, I watch this podcast, or I listen to this podcast all the time. So I was wondering what else we should talk about.
I was going to say, what's your Twitch handle?
My Twitch handle is VikingLightning.
There we go. So Casey, something that we've done with previous guests on the show is we ask them, what's the worst anime you have seen?
Worst anime I've ever seen, just because it has a bad ending, I'm going to say Soul Eater.
Soul Eater is the
Whoa.
worst anime you've
Yep.
seen.
Whoa! Okay, coming with daggers right at me, huh? Alright, I see how it is.
He's like, Anthony, square up.
Yes. Okay, I can see that. I'd say that Soul Eater, to use DJ's words, suffers from the same thing most animes suffer from, and that's pacing. So, I do agree.
That it's the worst anime you've seen?
I agree that
Diabolic lovers move over.
No. Oh,
Yeah, I didn't even need to watch that one.
Nothing is going to replace that new low. Man, it's like eating a bad piece of chocolate. You're just like, oh, this is going to fuck up the chocolate for the rest of my life.
So,
But no. Soul Eater in the sense that, like, the ending falls flat.
yeah.
I agree.
Well, speaking of characters who wield scythes, from Soul Eater, the anime that we watched for this podcast was Angels of Death. And Angels of Death was definitely a very interesting watch. So before we go in-depth on spoilers, we like to normally give our first impressions as well as our thoughts on our main characters. So let's go ahead and Casey, how about you start us off? What did you think of our? Oh my God, I fucked it up. I let DJ do it last time, and now I'm all out of whack.
Fucked what up?
I normally intro the show. I go like, well, Angels of Death is about this.
Okay.
The whole intro.
Sorry, I was happy to. Tell you what, if we're being completely honest, I'm happy to speed right on to Zombieland Saga. So that's just me.
And he's like, let's get past this Angels of Death nonsense.
No, this nonsense of a show. Let's go ahead and speed right through.
Okay, so Angels of Death focuses on... Oh, wait, Casey, you said you want to give a brief synopsis of it?
Sure.
All right, let's do it, man.
Okay, Angels of Death is a show about two protagonists. One is a small child, I would say, that is running from the other protagonist. And she gets into very sticky situations that the other protagonist would really help her out of those situations. And it really goes into depth on the characters. More the Scythe guy, because the girl, she's just a mystery. You have no idea what's going on. She she has no backstory, and she's just like, goes from just like so totally scared, just like a scared little girl, to deadpan instantly, and like there's no justification, and then there's some character growth along the way while they trial. Oh yeah. They have to go through these floors to escape.
Yeah.
They go through the floors to escape.
Oh my god.
So the goal is to escape, and they're working their way through the floors, and each floor there's a boss that they have to face.
Okay, well, I'll stop you there. That's a good synopsis.
God, it's like DJ's never left.
Let's dive on into Angels of Death.
Oh my god. Dude, if we give out awards, Casey wins the worst award.
I lost my train of thought like 3 times. I wasn't really sure what I was talking about halfway through.
Oh god. Oh, it was perfect. That was perfect.
Okay, so Angels of Death is an anime that premiered during the summer of 2018, which was just last season. And I bring this up right now because the show is still currently airing. Because it's a weird 16-episode long anime, which is an anime, like one that we've never watched on the show before. So we're just going to be talking about the first 12 episodes that aired during the summer season. It was made by the studio JC staff, who has worked on, get ready for this, Casey, Shokugeki no Soma.
Oh, shit.
Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon?
No way!
Yep. And Prison School.
I knew it. I just knew it. There's a lot of stuff that didn't make sense, and that explains it.
It is directed by Suzuki Kentaro, who worked on shows such as Flying Witch and Dagashi Kashi, which are both very different anime compared to this. It is based off on a video game, so that kind of explains a certain thing that I want to get into in spoilers.
Oh, don't even get me started about animes that are based on fucking games, Jake.
Based
That's
on
my
video
trigger. That's my trigger.
So, Casey mentioned our 2 protagonists, and like I said earlier, we like to talk about our main characters as well as our first impressions of the show before we get into the spoilers. So, Anthony, how about you start us off? What are your thoughts on Isaac, a.k.a. Zach?
Oh, God, this guy's an edgelord. My goodness. Pretty cool character design, I guess, when I saw him. And to put it into words, you said, "Yeah, you see that guy?" And I went, "Yeah, pretty cool. He looks pretty cool." I was like, "Yeah, Jake, he looks pretty cool. Yeah, he does not sound the way you think he sounds." And I went, "Huh." And you were right. Yeah. Absolutely. You start to build an assumption of this guy when you're looking at him, and you're like, "Oh, okay, this, it's wrong." Whatever you think he's going to turn out to be, he's wrong. You're wrong. So, yeah, I mean, first impressions, yeah, that's kind of sums it up.
Casey, how about you?
So they start off in a room with a doctor, and there's a little dialogue there, and then she's just all like deadpan, all like, "I've seen horrible things," and then she goes, all of a sudden she's in another room, and there's writing on the wall, and it just really sets the tone of what is going on right now.
Oh,
because there is so much of that in this anime. Like, she keeps walking down. My first impression is that
Casey's like, I thought first impression in general, not just on Zach. But that works too. That's part of the question.
Yeah, this works too. It's hilarious. I'm like trying to decipher what Casey's like talking about like halfway through. That's classic. You killed it.
Well, my first impression was that she was either in a dream state or she was like transported to a spiritual realm. Just like she was no longer in the real world. That was my first impression
of the
when she was in the building with the weird writing and blood and stuff.
like. I'll admit, I'll say like. I also had that kind of feeling. I thought it was like layers of a dream, almost like at first when I first caught into that. But what would you say are your first impressions on Zack, the scythe wielding protagonist?
Oh, Johnny?
Yeah.
When he cuts into the door and then looks into it like Johnny? His name is Johnny, by the way.
His name is Johnny.
And that's...
DJ never left. I'm referring to this guy as Johnny from now on.
He was just that, not like blood-curdling yell, but that like high-pitched scream that children makes. Like, it just ear-piercingly annoying.
Yes.
Okay.
I
can agree with that.
Yeah, I didn't really like him at first. I was like, this guy is just a bad guy to be a bad guy. That's what I thought of him.
Amen to that.
My first thought when I saw Zack was, I was like, who got this doodle out of my middle school notebook? Because this motherfucker looks like something I would have drawn when I was like my super edgelord phase.
Yep.
I was like, when I first saw the art for it, I was like, I think I'm gonna like this guy. And my first impressions of him were, I thought wrong. So, Casey, what are your thoughts on Rachel Gardner, our our main protagonist?
First impression of Rachel, she seems like a really dumb girl in a bad situation. And,
so typical.
like, she goes into a room with a doctor. Actually, this might be better to say for later.
Okay.
But she just does really dumb things. She trusts people. She probably shouldn't.
Like too naive?
She's too naive. I just really didn't like that. And then she has like a character change later on. And it like flips a switch and she enters like hack mode. She's just like she knows how the game works now.
Okay. How about you, Anthony? What did you think of Rachel?
Casey said it great. He said it the best. She was a dumb blonde girl that parallels another dumb blonde girl of a show that we've watched recently. It brings up some pretty harsh feelings. So, I was feeling the same, and hopefully was hoping to not be as let down as I was. That was my first impression of her.
Okay. My first impressions for Rachel were, like you guys said, like, this is a dumb character. And then Casey talks about a switch being flipped. And I'd say that switch also flipped how I felt about the character. But we'll get more into that in spoilers. And Casey kind of gave us his first impressions on it. Anthony, do you have anything you want to add about like your first impressions in general? Was this like the show? Did this show end up being like how you thought it was going to be?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I'd say that within, the first few episodes, without diving too deep into this, first impressions, I've 1 through 3. We have the 1 through 3 rule. First 3 episodes. I looked at my notes and I wrote down, "Dear God, please don't let it be like Diabolical Lovers, please." So that's kind of how I was feeling, and we'll have to wait until the final episode to find out.
Okay.
So
I'd say it. I don't know what I was thinking when I went into this, but it wasn't this.
Yeah.
Like I think I personally thought it was just gonna be like a girl trying to outrun killers, I guess, and it was not. It did not turn out to be that. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go start our spoiler discussion, where we go in depth on every episode and give our thoughts on it. If you would like to just skip right to our review of the first 12 episodes of Angels of Death, go ahead and skip to the time above. All right, so we start out with episode 1. And Casey says it right. She's talking with a doctor, and then all of a sudden it's this weird transition, and then she's in a room, like a weird like area with words, and then she just starts being chased by a fucking maniac covered in band-aids wielding a scythe. So
Yeah, it's a shock.
yeah, it just comes out of nowhere, right? It's just kind of like, oh, what? What just happened?
Yeah, there's just like no explanation of what's going on. She's just on the run for her life now, and it's like she was just safe. Now she's in an incredible amount of danger. This is a terrible hospital.
This is a terrible hospital. There is a part that is so random for me at first, and is never touched on again until much later in the series. But when he shows up and he breaks through that stuff and he kills that bird, she like runs away, circles around back to that bird, and like sews it up, and is just never touched on again.
Yeah.
And
No,
so,
that was really weird. Like, she has like this a really interesting ability to sew stuff, or she has a really interesting thought about sewing this bird back together to preserve it, to make it whole again. I don't know what was going on there.
yeah, it was definitely really weird. And then she just runs away and makes it to this elevator, and she starts going up the floor, and Zach's chasing her the entire time, who's laughing like a maniac, and she escapes, and he's like pissed off about it. And later on in the show, you find out these elevators are incredibly hard to get to in like other floors. So why is Zach so easy?
Like, it's very linear. It feels very linear. You know, like to like parrot that too, you know, it does. Like, the first episode, I'd say that the first and second episode, they feel like you're playing the main character. It's like you're trying to find, you know, it was very like Resident Evil, like it was like go into a room, click on an item, hopefully I found the item that I need, go back, you know, open up a door, you know, and everything else like that. But this, specifically in the part of it feeling so linear, like I don't understand. Maybe it's because he's just such an effective killer? I don't know. Who knows why?
Who knows why his
Really?
floor is so bad?
Exactly. He's on the bottom floor, apparently.
Yeah, so she takes the elevator up to the next floor where she meets Danny, who is her doctor, Danny Dickens. And Casey mentioned like she was meeting with him before the first kind of like weird like fade into Isaac's floor. And so he captures her, and he's obsessed with her eyes. Like,
Well, before the whole eye situation, he's doing like real creepy shit.
Yeah.
And then he mentions the eyes, and he's like, "I love your eyes." And then he's just like, "Here, follow me to this very safe place. I need you to find something." And then, like, they go into a room, and then it's an operating room. And you're like, bitch, get the fuck out of there. This person wants your eyes. It was, like, obvious that he was going for the eyes, and you should get the fuck out of there. And he was just being a creepy dude.
This is like coming from like the dialogue too. It was laughable, very, very laughable, because he gives this whole speech about her eyes, and then he's like, Rachel opens up the door, and it's an operating room, and she goes, "It's an operating room," and he goes, "Yeah, no shit, it's an operating room. Get inside. Let's go take a look at all my things that I have in here."
that's a common theme with Rachel, is Rachel fucking points out the obvious.
Yes, she does. Oh my god.
And so Danny like ties her up to the operating table, and we find out here he's a killer as well, and he takes out one of his eyes because it's a fake eye, and he puts in a different fake eye that has two irises in it, which is just weirdly, it's not like anything creepy or hides his identity, but it's just a little unsettling.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I felt. Like, I didn't think he was creepy because he did it, but I just felt like, that's just a little, I don't like it looking at me. I don't like it looking at me.
Yeah. That's one thing I will say about at least the first episode. You know, I didn't expect for Zach to come through that thing. to bust through the wall like that. This show does a pretty decent job at creating that aura of horror. Like, it does a pretty decent job at that. I wouldn't say that it does like the best job. I'd say that if you haven't watched Jake's video on, oh god,
Another?
I'm going to restart that. If you haven't watched Jake's video on Another, go check that out, because honestly, that is a great anime that gives you that aura of horror and really sets in the tone of being freaked out. So this show does a pretty decent job.
I'd say, yeah, the first episode definitely has that air to it. So, speaking of things that are kind of just random, we find out that, not random, but eventually Isaac makes it up to the floor and kills Danny.
Thank God.
Now, after Danny, like, basically, makes Ray so scared that she gets back some of her memories. And this is where Casey says she flips a switch. Mm-hmm. And she becomes more stoic and apathetic.
Like, complete loss of emotion.
Yeah.
She just becomes like a doll. And I was just wondering, what the hell did she see? Did she do? What? I just need something. I need like a little flash of like a murder or a dead body or just anything. Because, like, this continues for so long, her new switch, her new character. It was just like, give me a little bit of something.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree.
So Danny ends up getting killed by Isaac, and Isaac is declared a new sacrifice because he's left his floor. And at this point, we have no idea what that means. It's just that he's left his floor, he's killed an inhabitant of another floor, so now he's also a sacrifice. And so, while he's trying to get away, like he's like, oh, well, I gotta get out of here now, he finds the elevator. Rachel shows up, and he's like, what do you want? I'll kill you. She goes, really? Will you? Will you kill me, please? And then that's the end of the first episode. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay.
Yeah, what the fuck did I just watch? I would say that the opening, too, is pretty unsettling.
I was going to say, since the end of the first episode, let's talk about the opening and the ending songs.
Yeah.
So, like Anthony said, the opening is a little unsettling. What do you think of it, Casey?
So, when I saw the opening, it shows all the characters that are going on. And, like, I just remember her holding a knife covered in blood, and I'm, like, thinking, is this chick gonna, like, kill her way out? I was confused. And another thing, at this point in the show, it's called Angels of Death. And I just felt like they're in this spiritual world that Danny's not actually dead, that he's going to come back, and then the whole level is going to restart. And I was just like, what is going on right now?
All right, Anthony, besides it being unsettling, what other thoughts did you have on the opening?
Well, I mean, it's not the best opening we've ever listened to. I think that what made the whole opening so unsettling was because of not only the cinematic aspect, but the music as well. I think it's a good combination. So
I'd agree. It's not the best opening we've had, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good opening.
It's pretty good. It's no King's Game.
It's no King's Game opening. But I will say this. The ending theme and visuals might be one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a good ending song, and it's creepy.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
How about you, Casey? Any thoughts on the ending?
No, I always skipped it.
You bitch. He's like, I skipped the ending theme.
This guy binges anime, huh?
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go into episode 2 now, and it's at this point where Zach introduces himself, and he realizes that Ray is smarter than him, and so they decide to team up. Well, he makes a promise that if Rachel helps him get out, he'll kill her. But he doesn't want to kill her right now because her eyes are dead, And that's not what he likes. He likes killing people who have, like, hope. And she has, like, no hope, and it bores him. So they make their way up to the next floor, and there's a bunch of graves everywhere. And again, at this point, I'm constantly thinking it's a dream sequence. Like, it's a constant levels of dreams. Because I'm like, oh, she just said she wants to die, and now they're in a graveyard, so... But then, Rachel ends up they end up getting separated. I can't remember how they end up getting separated.
She leaves.
She leaves.
They go to the gravestone, and this is a pretty interesting point too. Up until this point, we kind of find out, why Zach, he's. I don't want to say that he comes off as dumb. People that can't read are not necessarily dumb. He's just find out that he's illiterate.
Yeah, he can't read.
Exactly, he can't read. So, I mean, I thought that was crazy, too. That, all things considered, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but later on, they read writing on the wall, and even Danny did this. This is what I find so weird, is Danny has Rachel in the first episode read the inscription on the wall. It's like, are all of them illiterate? All of them just can't read? Illiterate?
Well,
who knows?
Oh yeah, because we find out because he can't read the gravestones.
Mm-hmm. And
Rachel finds that this very extravagant one's hers, and a pile of rocks is Zach's. And so he hangs around the gravestones, and she finds a library containing records of the sacrifices and how far they make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like makes it to be this, makes it to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And while she's doing that, Isaac gets really fucking bored and just starts annoyed because she says, "Don't destroy my gravestone." And he's like, "Fuck you! I'll destroy all these gravestones." And he destroys all of them.
Yeah, he finds a pickaxe and
yeah, right. And he pickaxes all of the gravestones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while he's destroying the gravestones, he actually hits a switch that allows Rachel to progress further into the building.
Mm-hmm.
And he's confronted by a boy wearing a pumpkin mask at the end of
that episode.
Pumpkin?
Yeah, is it a pumpkin or is it a bag?
It's a pumpkin.
It's a pumpkin. Definitely
it's a pumpkin.
It's a pumpkin.
I was thinking it's like a, I don't know what the hell it was. Like a gourd.
A gourd? Oh,
it's still not a peg.
It's a squash of some sort. It's not a pumpkin. I thought this was funny. Part of me kind of connected him to that. Did you guys ever see that movie? It's like Tales of Halloween or whatever.
No.
Or it's Trick or Treat.
No.
It's this boy wearing this bag head, and
it is a bag.
No, I'm saying a boy wearing this bag head in Trick or Treat, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I wonder if there's some influence there.
Mm.
So the boy reveals himself to be Eddie Mason, and he's the killer of the level they're on B4, and he wants to kill and bury Rachel because he's fallen in love with her at first sight. And his excuse for it, which I thought was really funny, is well, we're around the same age. I'm like, accurate. That's a lot of kids being attracted to each other, right? Is that they're
That's
the same
very true.
age.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm okay. And so Eddie kind of taunts Zach by dodging all of his attacks, and then takes off and finds Ray, and he offers to kill her for her because she she wants to die.
Yeah, and the whole part where he's just doing backflips and he's doing all this shit. It's who is this kid? Why is he such a badass? And his means for murdering the chicks so weak. He's it reminds me of his voice reminds me of Edward from Full Metal Alchemist, and I was I like this kid. I like him right now. And he's doing all this backflips and stuff, and I was sick. But I did not like his motivations.
His motivations to kill Rachel. Yeah, he's kind of I feel it's kind of out of all of our killers, he's the weakest. I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh,
I agree.
yeah.
Like weakest
I agree.
character in the entire show.
Yeah, and the tropiest as well.
Yeah, I feel like maybe he's like intro there as the introduction to the killers. It's just like he's technically our second killer, but he's like our first killer because Zach's a protagonist.
Right.
Yeah, and then, like, you're on the floor, you hear this, like, child laughter. In that situation, I would turn to Zach and be like, kill me now. I ain't dealing with children laughing in a horror scene.
Kill me now. Come on.
Just come on, man. Just do it now.
At what point in the horror movie does that actually happen? You know, when do you turn to your friend and you're like, somebody just died. I think we're in a horror movie.
Well, I mean, if it's Scream 2, you leave when the first person dies and you're the cameraman.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, right.
He's like, I'm out of here. Your last cameraman died.
Yeah, no, sorry. No. I seen the first one. I ain't gonna do it.
Eddie ends up talking to Rachel, and Rachel finds out that, well, not finds out, but basically surmises that if she lets Eddie kill her, Zach's going to be stuck on the floor. Like, Zach can't escape, and she kind of made a promise that she'd help him escape. And Zach eventually tracks him down because Eddie is like still trying to get Rachel to like let him kill her. And Zach swears to God that they'll keep their promise. And Rachel's on board. Rachel goes, cool. You swore to God.
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, what the fuck?
Well, like, the kid is just like, come on, you gotta give me a good reason why you want Johnny to kill you over me. Like, come on, this is getting infuriating. And I was like, he said it exactly! This is infuriating!
It is an annoying exchange, because he's just saying, like, why won't you let me kill you? And she's like, and he's like, why won't you let me kill you? I'm like, oh my god, move on.
Like,
and
perfect person to kill you.
I'm happy Zach came up and interrupted that. Like I said, I was at this point in the show, I don't even know if I'm on board, because like I said, I don't like Eddie at all. I'm gonna put that out there right now. I hated Eddie. I didn't like his floor. I didn't like his gimmick. I didn't like his motivation. And I'm like, if every killer's like this, we're in for a hell of a ride. And so,
yeah.
And so when Zach shows up, ends their altercation, and breaks in, and Eddie turns off the lights. This is what I start to like, is Ray starts to become, like, useful. And Zach tells her to go find the lights, and she goes, okay. And she just takes out this flashlight that she found and just runs up the stairs to go look for the flashlight, and she ends up running into Eddie, and Eddie knocks her into into this new grave that he made for her. And she ends up throwing it around on him, like hitting him in the face with pushing him into the tombstone, and stealing his remote and turning on the lights, because she figured that the timing of the lights going off was so convenient that he had to have done it himself. And so as she steals the remote and turns on the lights, Zach shows up, hits Eddie in the face with the back end of the scythe, knocks him into the thing, stabs him, and then throws the tombstone on top of him the entire time, taunting him, which started to make me like Zach.
And, like, another thing is they were fighting right before that part, and it was just, like, cringe-worthy when the guy was all like, oh, he has good instincts because I can't hit him in the dark because I dig graves in the dark. So I am good at being in the dark. And I was just like, oh, come on, man. This is so dumb. I was really losing interest at that point.
Like I said, this is a weird 3 anime rule for me, because I feel like it gets better after the first 3 episodes.
I do agree.
Oh, for sure.
So after they kill Eddie, and fucking bury him partially alive, They proceed to the elevator and enter a... They go up the elevator and enter a, like, prison. And that's where we get into episode 4. And for me, the start to possibly the best, like, arc of the series.
I do agree. I do agree. At this point, though, I'm like thinking to myself, like, oh god, they just did 3 floors, right? 3 floors in the matter of 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh god, this is gonna be so long.
I'm like, how the fuck are they? Like, that's so quick. I was like, is every killer gonna be 2 episodes? Like, like we're gonna have like 3 killers.
Yep.
Like,
yep. That's what I thought. That's what I thought too. Not
3 killers. We're gonna have like 6 killers. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I had to put it down for a minute. I was like, fuck. I'll come back to it tomorrow. See if it gets any better.
Yeah, I agree. I did not care for those 3 episodes, and I was like, this anime is pretty fucking bad.
I do agree.
But then we get into this arc, and this arc is a highlight because it's highlighting what I think the show does the best, and that's the relationship between Rachel and Isaac. Not necessarily their relationship together, or just their interactions. They're they're a good pair. And I just really like that. It's a very hot character with a very cold character, and they just play off each other so well. Like, right off the bat in this episode, they go up against these bars, and Rachel goes, oh, these bars are iron. And he goes, I'm gonna smash them. And she goes, you can't smash them, they're iron. And he goes, Gah! And he, like, hits his scythe against it, and he goes, ah! It's like, I can't smash them, they're made of iron. She goes, I said that. He goes, you should have said it sooner. And she was like, I did.
That was, and I have to agree too, because there were a couple of scenes too where it's kind of like that, like, I don't know how I felt about them, because they were kind of cutesy. Like I think even in the second episode, before Zach like pulls Rachel into the elevator, he like screams at her or something like that, and it's like a funny design. It's like that chibi type of design, you know. And at this point, I'm not really knowing how I'm feeling about that particularly, you know. And then it happens again more often in this particular episode as well, where like, or even back in the Tombstone, like Zach's like pacing all over and it like cuts, and it's like, I don't know, it's kind of gives that jokey feel. Some of them I felt like they were out of place. They were a little off-putting, but
okay, I can see that, but I feel like all the jokes that happened in this episode all were perfectly timed, because it's before the real seriousness of this floor hits.
I can agree.
Like, when the floor becomes more serious, they become more serious.
I agree.
We also find out the inhabitant of floor B3 is a sadistic prison warden named Kathy, who I'm a little bummed out DJ's not here, because I'm sure DJ would have loved Kathy.
Yeah, I agree. That's like his shtick.
But dude, her voice, oh my god, it was so annoying. No.
Who was it, Anthony?
Wasn't that Jamie? What's her face?
Oh, you watched the English dub of it?
I sure did. Yeah,
I watched the sub.
Yeah,
I saw that it was done by Funimation. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. So that's cool. That's pretty neat. So they she gives them a series of tasks to do. Initially, because like she needs time to prepare, because she didn't expect them to get there so early. And she's like, oh, you guys got here a little earlier than I thought. I need to prep some stuff. So you have to go into this room and do a riddle. And she like disappears. And they're like, what? And they go in there and they just realize they have to take pictures of themselves.
Yeah.
And this is possibly my favorite sequence of animation / joke of any anime I've ever seen.
Wow.
Just because of just a little animation thing, and I loved it. So she's taking so long to take his picture, and he's like, "Why does it fucking matter?" And she goes, "Well, you gotta quit moving." And he's like, "What?" And then she takes the picture, and he goes, and then it's his turn to take a picture of her. And she goes, "Don't push down too hard on it, or it will blur." And as she's talking, he just smacks the camera, and her eyes go go from like her blank stareness to like a sadistic, like to a like, are you fucking kidding me? And she goes, blur, and then she grabs the picture. She goes, it blurred, and like that's just like that second, that few seconds made me laugh so hard. I had to stop. I was just like, I don't know why. Maybe because I feel like I've been there before, where I'm in the middle of telling somebody how something works and they just do it, and then I'm just like, really? You did that? Okay. All right, thank you. So I that little bit right there might be one of my favorite parts of any anime. Like, it makes no sense why it's up there, but I'll tell people, I'm like, so there's this part, and I'll laugh, and they'll just be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
I kind of agreed with Johnny on that part, where all they needed was a picture. It didn't matter how it looked.
Yeah.
Because it worked. They showed the pictures, and they're blurry, and it worked anyway.
Yeah.
And so then they get into this next area, and Zach sees this fucking electric chair, and there's all these dummies everywhere. And, like, they don't know what to do, and Zach's like, I'm tired. He goes, I'm gonna sit right here. And, like, as he's walking over there, Rachel goes, I wouldn't sit there if I were you. And he goes, why? She's like, it's an electric chair. He goes, I don't care. And then he sits in it, this curtain closes around it, you hear him go, hey, what are you doing? And then it opens up, and he's strapped to the electric chair. And then Kathy shows up, and she goes, oh, Isaac sat in the chair. Okay, so you're an idiot. You're going to get electrocuted until Rachel can figure out the problem, and she gives a riddle. And so he's just constantly being electrocuted, and Rachel figures out that she has to destroy all the eyes in the audience watching him. And so she picks up his really heavy scythe, and because she's a child, she takes forever killing all these like dummies, and he's just being electrocuted constantly. I probably shouldn't have been laughing at this part, but I was laughing really hard.
I like see it like that. That was a very confusing part for me. I didn't know how I was supposed to feel because it was kind of jokey at first, and then it's like Rachel just like blank face, like just don't die, and you're like, how do I.
Yeah, so this is where I want to bring up Rachel's blank face in certain areas makes me think this is how come I feel like almost every anime that we've watched that's based off a game can't work, because it's always insert yourself as the main character, and that's what it is. It's like with Rachel, it's like she's such this blank character because you're the character, you're playing her in the game, so all these emotions that you're supposed to be feeling, the character doesn't necessarily feel them. And so that's where I'm like, oh, so, and it's another one of those games where it's the character has no emotion because it's all about the player reacting to the game. So she ends up killing all the stuff, and Zach is unresponsive at first until finally he snaps out of it, and then again he makes a joke about like what's all this shit, because he sees all the dummies with their heads knocked off. She goes, oh, I had to use your scythe to do all this because it would turn shit off. And he just looks at her and he goes, what the? He's like, I got electrocuted. My scythe got used for weird shit. Because today sucks. And then just walk into the next room for the next riddle, which is them being locked into a room that is constantly expelling gas. And this is where I think that's where the tonal shift of this arc happens. Like, we had their like funny moments, and this part is it gets a bit more serious because it's a more serious riddle. Like, they only have one gas mask, and the poison gets slowly stronger, and they have to solve this puzzle by basically both exchanging the gas mask. When in reality, Zach really never needed it, because like he kind of makes fun of her for it. He's like, you should have probably held on to it the entire time. They end up solving the riddle, and they end up going into the next. Oh no! They solve the riddle, and Rachel gives Zach the key card, and Zach keeps trying to shove the key card in the wrong way, and he ends up breaking it because he can't see that the arrow is like an insert here, and Rachel ends up rigging the walkie-talkie that she got from Edgey into a bomb because the gas is explosive, and they blow up the door. And this is where I like Kathy, because Kathy just goes, well, I let you guys win. I let you guys pass that. I opened up the doors. And Zach just looks at the camera and he goes, no, you didn't. Which I thought was just funny.
All I'm saying is, like, this Rachel girl, she was just like an idiot. And just complete, not bimbo, because she doesn't have big boobs, just an idiot to start with. And she is just like MacGyvering this fucking walkie-talkie into a bomb. She worked out the crazy riddle of that the dude had a fucking remote control. Like, obviously the dude had a fucking remote control, but, like, to solve other riddles, she turned on a hack mode. And that's where I feel like she just started to get better at solving the puzzles, but there's, like, no reason why she got better. She was just smarter after that switch was flipped.
I think it's because she no longer has her emotions making her panic. So she's becoming more calculated.
Okay. She can act out of logic instead of emotion.
Yeah, that's what I like, because you see her, she's not in any, like, when Zach's getting electrocuted, she's in no hurry.
And that's what I'm saying, like, I had no idea you're gonna chop off some heads to solve a riddle. I would not have solved that riddle.
I was thinking the same exact thing, Casey. I would have been stuck there, and anybody in that chair would have died.
And that's why she's a hacker.
That's why she's a hacker.
Because she knows the solution to the game.
The way I am, I don't think I would have. I like to think I would have, but I think the person being electrocuted and yelling at me would have made me so just unsettled that I don't think I could have figured out the riddle. I think I would have just been, like, yelling at them to shut up. Like, stop yelling at me! So they end up getting into the next obstacle, which is that Rachel has to tell Zach how to put dolls in a dollhouse. But before this, they took a rest, and Zach kind of has, like, a nightmare of his childhood, which is something I enjoyed. Again, I like it when a character is more than just, like, a gimmick or nonsense. And so Zach kind of has a very stereotypical I kill people because I had an abused childhood background. But man, his childhood was fucked up. Like,
yeah, and he had something, you know? Like, he had an experience that was traumatizing, and he was already covered in bandages, so, like, where did the bandages come from? And he murders, or actually, I shouldn't say this, but he gets this murder mode going.
Yeah, he does.
I like the sound of that, yeah.
Murder mode.
Murder mode.
He does get this kind of feel to him in this flashback that, like, he apparently gets sent to, like, a foster home where these people have killed children before. Like, I'm guessing out of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And so they tell, basically, Zach to bury the kid. Like, bury the body of the other kid. And so he wakes up, and they go into the next riddle, and they have to place dolls in a dollhouse. And it's this memory that we just saw. So Rachel's, like, solving math equations and finding words in the book and telling Zach to put the male doll on the couch in the living room. It's like, take the bandage doll and put it here. Take the woman doll, put it here. And it's just playing out that exact memory that we just saw. And the entire time Kathy's taunting him, like, saying, like, oh, like, you're a tool. Like, you guys are using each other because you guys are both tools. And Zach, to complete the puzzle, Zach can't destroy the dollhouse, and he really fucking wants to. And again, this is where I like this, because we've seen him, like, destroy shit just because he's fucking bored, destroy shit because he gets mad really quick. And here, he knows that he can't destroy this, or else him and Rachel are stuck. And I like that conflict that he's doing. Like, he's forced to reenact this horrible memory, and he's being taunted the entire time he's doing it, and he's not acting like the Zach that we've seen the past, like, 5 episodes.
Yeah, I would agree. And I feel like there's a lot of character development going on for Johnny, While Rachel, on the other hand, she just became a genius and able to solve these math problems.
Casey's like, I'm not.
There's
letting
no
that
explanations.
I'm not letting that hacker get out of this.
No, I
fucking
agree.
hack.
I 100% agree. I think that we have two sides of the compass here. Thankfully, the show does this particular scene. I agree with Jake. I think that this particular scene is done really, really well because you get a snippet of character development, and then not only in that, in backstory, you get legitimate development where he and conflict that's not being created on a single dimension. It's not just like, oh, I'm being chased by a killer, just gotta kill the killer. Thankfully, it's coming from an emotional conflict and developing Zach more so as a character, and not just showing me some bullshit scene about a character that I'm supposed to just like now because he was drowned once by his mom. No,
Oh,
that's the Diabolic Lovers.
Yeah, I was like, Anthony's referencing Diabolic Lovers. So they end up passing it, and then Zach destroys the fucking dollhouse.
Anyways, yeah.
He waits for her to say that they pass, and then he destroys the dollhouse.
Yeah.
And so they go in, and she tells them that to get past this area, they have to inject a syringe. They have to inject a whole syringe into them. One of them's a vitamin, the other one's a drug. Like a possibly lethal drug, I believe she says. Mm-hmm. And so Rachel says the correct thing to do would be for her to do both. And Zach's like, why would that work? She goes, well, because if it's the vitamin, it's okay, and if I get the drug, I'll die, and I kind of want that. And he goes, yeah, but if you die here, how do I get out? And she's like, oh, yeah. And he goes, I got this. And he injects himself with both. And I'm like, damn it.
I know, the way that he says it, too, is he grabs hold of me, he's like, so I guess I'm the one that has to do this. It's like, no, that's not how this is supposed to work.
Out of all the puzzles for Rachel to dummy it, this is not the one. So he injects both into himself, and as they're going on, he kind of starts going into murder mode, as Casey had mentioned, where he kind of goes crazy. And he's threatening to kill Rachel, and Rachel's like, hey, you said you wouldn't kill me with my eyes like this. You want me to have emotion. And he goes, you're right. Now fucking run, because I'm going to kill you anyway. But you've awakened part of me to hold back. Now run. And as she's running away, we get more of Zach's flashback in the next episode. Because his and it's definitely confirmed that his caretakers were abusive to him, and in this flashback, and I think it ends with him grabbing a knife and stabbing down on them, right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's in that scene or if it's in the next one, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. So Zach ends up chasing her, succumbing to the drug. He's just a maniac at this point. Mm-hmm. And ends up chasing her to a room where Kathy has a bulletproof wall between her and them, and machine guns. And so she sees Zach and Ray not duking it out, but Rachel basically pleading with him as he's crazy. And so Kathy gives Rachel a gun, saying well, you should use this to kill Zach. And this is also where she's maniacal, and you get more of why she's a crazy person. And she's Kathy is this person who feels like she has to deal out judgment to people, and the judgment has to fit the crime. And so I don't know how this fits the crime of it all, but she's a crazy person. So she gives her the gun, and Zach basically says, yeah, you should shoot me with that gun, or else I'm going to kill you. And Rachel says, no, we're not tools. She's making us try to kill each other, but we're not. We're better than it was our choice. Your choice is to kill me, and my choice is to be killed by you. We're not the tool for the other person. And Zach goes, that's crazy. That's right. You're making that's so crazy. It's making me smile. I'm the person who's smiling the most in this room. And so you know what that means. And he fucking guts himself.
And I just didn't see it coming.
I didn't see that coming either.
See that coming at all. Like, to choose to attack yourself because you're smiling the most is just pure insanity.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah, but the thing was, it's totally in character, right?
Yeah, no, that's what he would do.
Yeah.
I'm like this. Okay, I'm like, all right. And so Kathy's pissed, so she exits her safe room. She's like, "What the fuck is this?" She's like, "You were supposed to kill each other, not this shit." And then she finds out that he's still alive, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna torture him now," and threatens to kill Rachel with the machine guns. And she also, because Rachel aims the gun at her, and she shoots the gun out of Rachel's hand. She goes, "Oh, so that wasn't even loaded. So you're a dumb bitch. You're a dumbass, stupid bitch." Is like basically how Kathy's acting, because she's pissed off. She's like lost her composure. And then Rachel goes, "Oh, yeah, hold on a second." Reaches in her bag, takes out another gun, and shoots Kathy in the stomach with it.
This is like, I'm like, at this point, I go, what the fuck? Where did she get that fucking gun? She's had that the whole time? Why the fuck didn't she just shoot Eddie?
Well, that's what Zach says too, Zach, because you had that gun the entire time. And so she shoots Kathy with it, and Kathy's like Kathy's pissed, like, "Oh my god, like, I'm gonna kill you with my machine guns now." And she reaches her hand in the air, and Zach cuts off her hand. And she's like, "Oh," and then he stabs her in the gut with it.
Yeah.
And we get this kind of cool, like, disturbing scene of like Kathy like crawling towards the controller because she has to deal out judgment, and she's like just leaving this huge blood trail. She's like coughing up blood, and then she hits the button, and like the machine guns shoot at like where Rachel is standing like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And she's like, and then she dies. And so Zach's bleeding out. Rachel and him keep walking, and they find out that the elevator, like they find out that Kathy's safe room was like right next to the door that they came in from. And this is one of my favorite lines from Zach. Zach goes, "She was acting so pompous, and she was right there next to us. Man, I'm gonna kill her." And then Rachel goes, "She's dead." He goes, "Oh yeah, I already did that." And then they find out that the elevator is right in the room where they took pictures. And Rachel solves another riddle and puts Zach's name card in the thing, and they end up taking the elevator up. And Zach brings up like "Hey, it was pretty cool that you shot her. Also, where'd you get a gun?" And she goes, "Oh, it was in my bag." Which is also kind of hinted, because Rachel, when they see the iron bar in the last episode, Rachel goes, "I only have needle, string, and Zach interrupts her. He goes, "Why the fuck would you have a needle and a string?"
Oh, I don't even remember that part. And like, I really starting to get into the mystery of like this building at this point. Like, I was wondering back to earlier, is it a different realm that they're in? Are they dealing with angels of death? Like, I thought that these creatures would like come back. Not creatures, but like these characters would come back. And I was like, "Oh man, she just died. The kid on the floor died. Everyone's dead. And do they have to like do it again?" I completely lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
I like where you were going there, though. I was
just trying to say that, like, I got this like mystery vibe going. I was like really invested in the story at this point. I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to understand what was happening with these floors, like, and at this point, I was like, these people are dead. Everyone prior to this level, they're all dead. And Zach is mortally wounded. He needs to be healed.
Yeah, I'd say all the way up until like until they get to the filing cabinet, the library on Eddie's floor, where she finds the files on her and Zach. I thought it was like a dream sequence. I thought it was like multiple layers of hell type idea. And then after that, I was like, "Oh no, this is just a building that apparently has some serial killers in it, and each one gets a floor." And I imagine that in another world, this is some rom-com, like sitcom.
Yeah, I'd say that, but like I really started to form some solid like ideas of what what it might be. As far as like a dream sequence goes, at that point I'd probably like already ruled it out. But like it wasn't until the next few episodes that I started hoping. And this, I'll save my final thoughts for, kind of when we go through towards the end. Like, I'm hoping that it's not just everything inside of Rachel's mind.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah,
but I mean, like, as far as, like, the events and everything goes, too, I can definitely attest to Casey's, like, getting wrapped into the mystery. Yeah, this show's got me by now. Show's got me.
Yeah, I'd say I got genuine interest in this arc with, like, in Kathy's floor. I was definitely like, I'm like, okay, I like Zach. There's a mystery behind Rachel. She's kind of boring, but like maybe we'll find out why. And so that's where I'm like, at this point I'm watching it till the end. I mean, I was watching it till the end for the anime anyway. I mean, for the podcast anyway. But now I was on board.
Bullshit.
And so,
I kind of liked the whole Rachel, like, the emptiness she had. I was like, that's a really unique way to approach a character. Like, I've never really seen that before. Just, like, a character wanting to die, but, like, it was kind of, like, conflicted with, like, why don't you just choose the easiest path to die? Why don't... Like, there's problems with her, like, character, but I thought it was interesting.
Oh, yeah, because Zach even says, why don't you just kill yourself with a gun? Mm-hmm. When she had the gun, and she goes, well, God wouldn't forgive me with that. And
I felt like that was weak. I felt like that was a weak reason why she...
I feel like it was on board with her ideals, because, again, she instantly went with Zach when Zach swore to God that he would kill her. And so she has this idea of, at this point, an idea that there's this higher power that she has to follow.
Mm-hmm. And looking at it like that, I could say that it was, pretty easy to kind of see that is aligned with what she kind of believes in. Personally, for me, I felt that the use of, like, the religious aspect of it was a little, I don't know, distasteful. Is kind of the word that I would use, just in the sense that, like, come on, this is kind of, like, that's cheesy. That's a stupid reason.
I mean, like, we get more into that whole religious ideal, like, later on.
You're a little bit later, yeah.
But, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that, like, it just kind of solidified my already, I don't know. I don't even know how to put words to that kind of feeling. It already just it left me a little unsettled. So
kind of like cringeworthy. Yeah,
exactly.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and so Zach ends up collapsing due to his wounds in the elevator, and so in the next episode, episode 7, Zach's bleeding to death clearly because he gutted himself episode ago. And so Ray has to find stuff that can heal him, and this is where she ends up running into the master of this next floor, Abraham Gray, who is a priest, and his floor is modeled off a church complex. And Gray and Rachel make a deal where he'll lead her back down to B5, all the way down to Danny's floor, where he believes that there's medicine. But she has to go through every single floor, and she has to go through a process that will let him judge her character. And so she goes back to Zach. She goes, hey, I'm going to go down. I'm going to get you medicine. And Zach goes, hey, since you're going down anyway, on my floor, there's a knife I'd like you to get me. And I kind of just thought of it. It's like she's not going to the store to buy, like, a soda, and you're asking her to get chips.
Yeah. It's very reminiscent of RPGs.
It's like, oh, since you're going there anyway, how about you grab this?
My cat, he's locked in a dungeon behind 3 bars, and there's a dragon as well, and you've got to kill it and get my cat. Can you do that for me?
Well, since you're killing that dragon anyway, rescue my cat. So they go down to Kathy's floor, and Ray is instructed to restore power to the elevator. And so while she's running through here, Oh, also she's been experiencing some, like, because Gray will open up his book and she'll experience some, like, weird, trippy-ass scenario. And so she ends up going down into Kathy's floor, and Gray warns her that all the people who, like, took a buyout from Kathy and decided to live the rest of their lives in prison have now escaped because Kathy's no longer running the prison. So you gotta, like, watch out for those guys. And all these guys are, like, zombie-like prisoners because they're starving to death and they're all dying. And so she runs through the entire floor, makes it to Kathy's, like, control room, and just starts fucking lighting them up with the machine guns, saying they're in my way, they're in my way. And I'm kind of like, oh, possible Rachel development? Let's see. No. Here's a spoiler. No.
Misled. We were misled.
Yeah. I was kind of excited to see some backstory for Rachel too.
So Ray also notices that there's no Kathy's body's gone, which is something that I'm kind of like, wait a minute, is Kathy's body gone? I saw her die. The only character at this point who I'm positive wasn't dead was Danny. Mm-hmm. Because they showed Danny at, like, the start of episode 3 kind of, like, weird, like, they weirdly focused on his body. So I was like, Danny's got to be alive.
Something.
And this was, like, solidifying my, like, oh, it's got to be in a different realm. These people, they're angels, and they're just, like, not on the floor anymore. They lost their challenge. And so they're gonna freaking just wait until the end. I didn't know what was going on, but I thought they were alive.
You thought they were alive?
Can I ask you guys a question?
Go ahead.
At this point, I'm pretty certain that these people aren't angels. Right? I mean,
well, like,
angels, like, what's the definition of an angel? Like, the reason why I bring that up is because, you know, the only reason that I would have to call them angels is because of the title. I haven't seen them do anything else.
Well, they're never referred to as angels yet. I thought Angels of Death was just nonsense at first. I thought it was just like an anime name. Like Diabolik Lovers, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it does not. No, it does not.
I don't know. I was the sucker that bought into the angels part, and I just had this sinking feeling that there was something more to it. There's just, it wasn't at, like, face value, like, what happened to the bodies? Were they moved? Are they alive? I just kept asking these questions.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like, I at this point, I'm kind of like, where the hell did her body go?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So she ends up turning on she walks through all the corpses and turns on the switch. And Gray is like, was that the correct way to go about that? You kind of just killed everything that was in your way. And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh no, come on. Have some sort of, like, upset, like, be upset about it. And so they go down to Eddie's floor. And Gray explains that, like, Eddie was a very compassionate killer. And Rachel, what's Rachel's task for this one?
She's got to, last one was electricity. This one, she has to turn on the elevator shaft for the lower floors, right?
Yeah, she has to basically turn on, like you said, turn on the elevator shaft. And so she walks through there and Eddie's body's gone. The tombstone's moved and Eddie's body's gone as well.
Yeah.
And she has a hallucination of Eddie who, like, is, like, taunting her for her lack of compassion. And,
we totally forgot to mention about the Kathy hallucination, or the ghosts came through on her floor. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm hitting something here. There's definitely some angel shit going on.
Oh yeah, because Kathy does like taunt her for being, like, merciless.
Yeah.
So so while Rachel's looking for the thing to power up the elevator, all these hands come out of the grave. All these ghost hands come out of the grave. So again, must be Casey's going here like, I'm right about something. And so Rachel starts stomping on these hands because they're in her way again. And she turns on the thing, and then Gray goes, hey, It was kind of fucked up how you stepped on all those hands. And Rachel goes, was it? And I'm like, damn it, Rachel. Like, show some sort of emotion. And so then they get down to finally the goal. They get down to Danny's floor, and Danny's body's missing. And so Rachel's running all over the room looking for medicine, and this is actually where she kind of shows some emotion because she's panicking because she can't find any medicine. And so she ends up falling. She goes back to Gray and she goes, "Hey, there's no fucking medicine here." And Gray goes, "They're supposed to be." He goes, "To my knowledge, there's supposed to be medicine here." And she goes, "There's no medicine." He goes, "Huh. Well, that's unsettling." Like I like Gray as a character because it's that all-knowing character, but like done with a sense of when something happens that he doesn't know about, he's kind of just like, "Oh, that's not good." Just not like so he's not all-knowing, but he's all-knowing to an extent.
Right.
And so she also brings up that she saw that Danny's body's missing, but she didn't have a hallucination of him. And so then they go...
Then it flashes, right?
Yeah. And then they go down to their next floor, and then it goes to Zach, who's having another dream of his childhood, which continues. So he does kill his caretakers, and as he's walking down the street, this woman accidentally splashes him with a puddle. I feel so bad for this woman, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Because she splashes him with in a puddle, and she immediately stops her car, and she goes, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, are you okay?" And he kills her.
He like doesn't say anything, and then like she sees the knife in his hand, and she's like, she tries to do the rational thing. She's like, "Okay, sweetheart, you need to go home. I'm gonna get into this car right here." And then she like trips, and that's when Zach murks her.
And so then Zach like pulls her body into like the bushes and sleeps in the car,
which is so weird. That's so weird.
I had to think of it as from the idea of a child. Like, you're like, this is warm, I guess I'll sleep here.
Yeah, he probably didn't know how to drive.
Yeah.
Very true.
And so then he wakes up to somebody knocking on the door, and it's an old man, and he's like...
And I'm like, oh god.
I'm like, oh, don't kill this old man.
Yeah.
So the old man's like, who's in there? It's like, is that a child? Are your parents around? And Zach's like getting ready to stab him. He's like, I can't tell because I'm blind. And I'm like, that old man just saved his own life.
Yeah, he did.
And so the old man takes him home, and we see his like little cottage, and he has a cat. And I'm like, Zach's gonna kill that cat. Oh no. And so at one point he gets this urge to, at night Zach gets this urge to kill. But he doesn't want to kill the old man, and so he goes out into the town and he kills some drunk guy.
Yeah.
And he comes back, and the old man sees him. He's like, "Where were you?" And he's like, "Oh," and he touches his face and it's blood. And he goes, "What happened?" He goes, "I killed a man." He goes, "Oh, well, get some sleep."
I'm like, what the fuck?
I'm like, this is the chillest old man in the world. He's just happy someone's around.
Oh, 100%. He even says that, too. Like, when Zach comes in, he's like, why are you doing all this nice stuff for me? He's like, because you're a kid and I'm lonely.
And I was like, oh, shit. Shit is going to go bad for Zach.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought, too. I was like, not this one, too. I already watched Goblin Slayer, man. I don't need another.
And so the old man leaves, and he leaves a note for Zach, but Zach's illiterate, so he can't read it. But the note says, like, I'm going to town to buy food. I'll be back soon. And Zach goes, "Idiot, I can't read." Like, the old man's the idiot.
Well, how did he even write the note as a blind man?
That's true.
This show does a lot of unbelievable things.
There's just so many flaws here.
So it's basically a ridiculously long time to the point where Zach gets frustrated and like breaks like a chair. So he goes looking for the old man, and he stumbles across a police scene, which I thought was them finding the woman's body at first,
right?
Until it showed the top of the old man's head, and they found out that the old man had been murdered.
Oh yeah, and when he was breaking shit, he happened to find a stashed knife,
Oh yeah,
which he
found
picked
a combat
up.
knife. And so he brought that with him, and he found out the old man got murdered, and he ends up finding the pair of like muggers that like killed him and were laughing about it.
Which is so what? Like how? Like what were they doing? Like hanging out around the corner? Like the police will never find us here.
The police were like, "That's not our jurisdiction."
Yeah.
That's other side of the river town.
Yeah, right? Like the police just came by and they were like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" "Oh, we just having a campfire here." Nothing
In the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the rain.
It's like, come on, guys.
And so then Zack kills them, and Zack realizes here that what he likes is destroying people's happiness. That's what satisfies him. It just so happens he likes destroying terrible people's happiness, because, and that's what makes him a monster. And then as he's like having this dream, a figure approaches Zack, and then we are led into the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's revealed, to the surprise of probably no one, that the figure is Danny.
Wow.
And I was so surprised!
Casey was like,
"No,
oh
you were
God.
not." No,
I was like, I knew it! I knew they're all, like, these spiritual bastards, like, I knew that they're in cahoots, all this, and then, like, I continue to watch the episode.
Oh.
No way. I would say the only semblance of me, like, remembering that the show apparently had angels in it was the use and imagery of the white feathers that just so happened to sporadically be on screen. Like,
The title is Angels of Death! Come on!
I wasn't confirmed that they were either going to make an angel
I agree.
reference until Gray brought it up. And I went,
Yep.
I thought it was just the title.
And he refers to them when he's taking... I think that he refers to them as angels when he's taking Rachel down to this next floor. I think that's when it first comes up. Either that or when they go back up.
Okay.
Something along the lines of that.
He does.
Like,
he
what?
references it pretty soon. Oh, so we find out Danny survived because he had body armor.
And I was like, fuck. Oh, so all these other people are dead. Damn it.
So he offers Zack medicine, the medicine that Rachel was looking for, if Zack gouges out Rachel's eyes and gives them to him. Because he'll let Zack kill Rachel, but he has to get the eyes. And Zack goes, "Well, fuck you. Like, I don't care about eyes, but I don't like you, so I'm not gonna do it." And then Rachel finds Zack's knife in his like terrible room where Zack eats cereal in soda. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah.
Oh,
weird.
it was I thought it was chocolate milk.
Oh. No, he had bottles of soda emptied by it, so I was like, I think that's what they were implying, was that he was eating cereal with soda.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
And he's trying to learn how to read,
Yeah, he's like writing a bunch of letters and stuff.
So she finds the knife, and she kind of realizes that she doesn't really know anything about him. We also find out Gray kind of has like a soft spot for Zack. He talks about how Zack's like this pure person. And pure person and naive person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so you're like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. Because at this point, it's kind of revealed that Zack's the mastermind. I'm not Zack. Gray's the mastermind of this whole floor thing. Ray also concludes that from all of her actions, that Rachel is a selfish witch who causes misfortune to everyone around her. Also making fun of Rachel's like belief in a god.
Yeah. And how do you find out if they're a witch?
Does a witch weigh more than a duck?
No, what also floats? A duck.
Tiny rocks.
Yeah, tiny rocks.
It's a duck. So if she weighs more than a duck, if she weighs as much as a duck, she's a witch. So she ends up running away and reunites with Zack, and this is where again I like Rachel and Zack's interactions.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
She goes, like, whose blood is that? He goes, it's Danny's. She goes, well, now we can find him. And he goes, how? We don't know where he is. And she goes, we'll follow his blood. And he goes, okay. So they end up when Rachel's running away initially from Gray, she thinks that she sees a giant snake. And then she ends up running into Zach, and Zach's like, there's no giant snake here. And then they continue walking, and then a giant snake attacks them for real.
Yeah, what?
And so Zach ends up hurting himself too much because he had to use a scythe, which is too heavy to use with like his gut being torn open. And so he ends up killing the giant snake, but passing out like from the pain and from the blood loss. And so Zach gives her the knife, and Rachel decides to chase after Danny alone with the knife. On her way there, though, she runs into Gray, who reveals that he confiscated the medicine Danny was carrying. Which I just like to imagine that Danny's like running around this floor, and Gray goes, "Hey, Danny, what are you doing up here?" And he's like
holding up a bunch of bottles.
"I'm sorry.
Nothing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gray." And he goes, give me the potion, give me the medicine, Danny. "Oh, now go back to your floor." "Okay."
Yeah, right.
And so,
Can I still play doctor? Can I still be a doctor?
"Can I still be Dr. Danny?"
Yeah,
Sure.
it's okay.
Sure.
Go right ahead.
Keep the lab coat on, Danny.
Yay!
And so then the scene shifts to like a courtroom where Gray's this judge, and they're proceeding over a witch trial. But this whole scenario is out of whack. It's like, I'm sure she's high.
Yeah. Right.
But I wasn't sure.
Casey goes, "I'm still not sure."
And I was like, I knew it! I was so happy when I was watching this part because, like, everyone was back. I was like, I fucking called this shit from episode 2 that they're all fucking, like, these spiritual beings. Like, they're all angels. And then he later on goes on saying all this shit about these angels and that he's chosen these people to be the angels of death. And they have their specific floors to kill at their own like discretion, and they're all coming together to determine if Rachel's actually a witch or if she is a witch. They're just going to be like, "Hey, you're a fucking witch."
Yeah, they all these hallucinations. Like Kathy says that she's like she has like a liar's heart, and like Eddie's like she's selfish, and Danny says that she has an unsavable soul. And so with all these testimonies against her, Gray's like, "Well, you're a witch, and you know what we do to witches? We burn them." And like this was a really like bravo
weird
in the sub. Bravo to Rachel's voice actress, because like this, she has like a scream where she's like, "I'm not a witch." That was very like. Kind of like snapped me back out of like, I'm like, this whole scenario is kind of ridiculous. And then she's like, "I'm not a witch." I'm like, oh, but she's burning alive.
Yeah.
So I was like,
and I thought the sage dude, the gray guy, I thought he was just like a wizard of some sort.
he's like, he's like, I don't know what I was watching. But it was crazy.
I thought he was like making snakes appear out of thin air. I thought he was freaking Dumbledore, man.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, oh yeah, this is the part where he also mentions that he is God.
Yeah,
he had declared himself God. And it was really toying with Rachel's emotions because she swore to God that, or not, she swore to God. Zach swore to God that he would kill her, and it was really fucking with her because he was God. And I was like, I guess he could be God in the show. I don't really know what's going on at this point. I'm so lost. But they're all angels of death. They're all here. I'm so excited.
One part I really liked here is Gray goes, "Well, what if somebody else swore to God to kill you?" And she's like, "What?" He was like, "What if somebody else did? Like, how would God know which one to pick?" And Rachel kind of just goes like, "What?"
Yeah, she has that's her break. Yeah, she breaks down.
She's like, "What?"
Yeah. But she's showing like a lot of emotion right now, and she's like experiencing fear, and she is terrified of like burning at the stake, burning to death, and she she shows a lot of motion right here.
Well, yeah.
And
Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Okay. I was gonna say, yeah. At this point too, this is where she starts to really she starts, like you said, expressing emotion, and she starts to reflect about her relationship with Zach, and she goes through all this stuff, and then this is where she reaches her weird conclusion that Zach is her god.
Yeah.
Because he's always helping her, he's saving her, and when she needed it the most. And so she cuts herself with his knife. And this snaps her out of the hallucination, which I imagine probably bummed you out, Casey.
It bummed me out. Bummed me out big time. I was all like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I was just happy to be done with that. Happy to be done with all of that. I liked the imagery that they used with her chasing after Zach and everything to lead up to that point. And it wasn't until the delivery of that particular line that I was like, oh god, this is horrible.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's poorly
delivered.
Delivered because I mean she's not. I think the idea of this floor in general was kind of Gray was basically saying you can make a god, and so he decided to become one.
Right.
And so that's where, with that ideals in place, Rachel kind of realizes that she made Zach a god. Because she's her idea of a god is someone who helps you, someone who saves you when you need it, and she realized, well, Zach does all that for me, and so for that I have made him my god, and so I didn't think I don't know, none of the whole fake religion stuff in this bothered me in any sense. I just think that it needed a little bit more expanding on. Because,
definitely.
Because it's Gray has a throwaway line. Basically how I said it is how Gray says it. He goes, well, I was religious, and I thought, hey, I could be God. And so I did. And that's the only explanation. We don't get Gray's backstory of him being in a religion and him realizing horrible things. He just says it. He just says, oh, people were doing horrible things and using God as an excuse, so I figured, why can't I be God?
Yep.
And so I was like,
I did, to that point, I do like that justification. That puts a very I like those aspects that connect the kind of story to real world type of events. And then that is something that absolutely you can relate to historically. That is something that as far as the Crusades go and especially in Spain and the Spanish Witch Inquisition, all of that stuff. That was crazy. That was crazy.
Well, yeah, Salem witch trials, even.
Exactly.
You go with that.
Exactly.
People are lighting young girls on fire because they said, "Oh, God said it's okay to do it."
So I do like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
So I was I thought this was pretty interesting. So this is also why I like Gray. I like Gray as a character, like I said before, because after Rachel snaps out of it, Rachel's like, "I'm gonna fucking stab you with this fucking knife. Now tell me where the medicine is." And Gray's like, "Okay." And he goes, "Here's the medicine. It will disinfect wounds. It will stop bleeding, and you can make him get more blood. Enjoy. Don't stab me, please, little girl."
I like how he asks her too. He's like, "How come you didn't kill me?" And she just turns around. And she goes, "You weren't in my way." Oh, makes sense.
Fair enough.
Okay. And so she takes care of Zach. She fixes him up, and while she's sewing him up, he's conscious, and she realizes that he has burn marks under his bandages. And so so in the elevator they talk about it and find out that that this man that was dating the woman that gave birth to Zach doesn't even call her his mother, tried to light him on fire. And so that's why he has burn marks all over his body. I'm like, Zach has been dealt a shit hand.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so, it's just really I'm not saying he has the best character development because compared to different shows. I'm just saying that he has something. He has been dealt psychological trauma at a very young age, and he turned into a murderer. There's like an actual progression of a character that's been going on throughout this novel, or not novel, but this anime.
Yeah,
what?
I agree. I'd say that it is a character. It is, you see him. You don't necessarily see him grow, but you understand from how he got from A to B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that you do. You do. This show does a pretty decent job of showing versus just sitting us down and being like, well, when I was 12, I got burnt by my stepmom's boyfriend, and then after that, I went to an orphanage.
Sold me to an evil couple
and they killed people, and then I found an old man, and I lived with him for a while, and then I started killing.
And then he died.
Yeah, and now you're sewing up my stomach.
All I'm saying is, you kind of start to feel bad for Zach. Or Johnny, I mean.
Absolutely. I felt for... you almost got me to say Johnny.
Damn.
I felt...
Casey and I had a secret agreement. That's what this is.
I like Zach. I like Zach as a character. Again, my first impression of Zach was, oh my god, this is terrible, to how I feel about him now was, I want to see how this ends.
I would say that I'm invested in the characters. Yeah, at least more so than a horrible anime. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So they end up going up into the final floor, B1, and they end up in a house, and...
end of episode 11, right?
Yep, this is the end of episode 11. So then we get episode 12, the last episode we're going to be talking about today. So they start walking through the floor, and it's this floor, and it's like flowers are everywhere. It's really weird. And then there's a couple of corpses that are unnaturally stitched together with the thread, and it's a red thread to kind of hint back that Rachel sewed him up with a red thread and sewed up the bird with a red thread.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel starts freaking the fuck out. She's like, you gotta kill me now. You have to kill me now. And she's thinking to herself, if Zach finds out, he's going to hate me. And she's like, you have to kill me right now. And then Danny shows up, and he's like, I didn't go back to my floor when I got my talking to. I went upstairs. And so he ends up... Go ahead.
Time out here. Gray says that he's the only one that's allowed to go to every single floor.
Yeah, just because someone's not allowed to do something doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Yo, big old rule breaker. I can't believe Danny's terrible.
And so Danny suddenly arrives and locks Zach out of the room and saying, I'll only unlock the door if you explore the floor and find out Ray's past. And Zach's like, okay, I guess. And so he's fighting through all of these death traps that are in the house, and then Gray saves him. And he's like, well, the entire facility is to study and observe those who claim to believe in God. And so it's this idea on Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're different sacrifices, and they're judged by the angels on the floor. He starts to break down his whole system that he's developed here. And he developed a real interest in Zach while they were here, and especially Zach's relationship with Rachel. And so he goes, also, Danny is bad at this game that I've created, because there's no fucking way you're going to figure out this riddle without Rachel here. So, go into that room. And so he goes, oh, okay. And so Zach solves the riddle and goes into Rachel's room, and the TV turns on, and he's watching a news report about how Mr. and Mrs. Gardner were brutally murdered and found with knife wounds and bullet wounds and weirdly stitched together. Meanwhile, that their daughter Rachel was found completely unharmed, even though a week had passed from their deaths, implying that she murdered her parents. And Rachel sees Zach go into the room and hears this. And Zach is just horrified while he's watching the news. And it ends.
To be continued.
And
there was one thing. There was a flashback that Rachel had of someone stabbing her mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
You saw Rachel's legs, it was a low-angled shot of a person on the ground, and you saw Rachel's legs while someone was being stabbed.
Yeah.
So we know Rachel didn't do it. Like, well, at least stab her mom.
Yeah.
Does this mean that she shot her dad and then sewed them together?
Gun.
So there's like some
some-
things.
there's some
There's
stuff.
some things in there.
Yeah.
So this is where I have to ask you guys, in the initial airing of this, because we're watching it as it airs, I guess. Episode 12 was like the end of a season, and it's going to continue with 4 more episodes. But at the end of episode 12, would you have continued? Would you go, okay, well, I guess I'm going to wait a couple weeks and then watch episode 13 when it airs? If you were watching this as it aired.
I'm at this point, I'm pretty disappointed, is the word that I would use. I probably would, just to kind of see it through, but I like, if I had known, like, going into this, like, airing, and, like, then going and reading up on it, and being like, it's going to come out in how many, why didn't they just release it all in one go? I probably would end up watching it, though, yeah.
You would end up watching it? How about you, Casey?
I would watch it, and I feel like there's a lot of mystery. Like, how did the guy get the money to build the building?
Casey's like, who built it? Could you imagine the freaking contract?
I'm just saying, there's a very elaborate building. And
go ahead.
And I want to see what happens with Rachel and Zach. I want to see if he fulfills his promise. If he doesn't, what kind of relationship they have. I do want to watch the rest of the show.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. That's like I definitely would watch. I'd be a little frustrated. I'd be like, this is the end of the.
Oh, if I watched it while I was coming out,
yeah.
And I thought it was the last episode, I would have flipped the fucking table. I would have been like, this is it? Nothing was revealed? I would be so mad.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I feel like after anything you guys want to say about these episodes? Because I think we, I'll explain what we're going to do with, since we all expressed interest in wanting to finish the series. I'll explain this in the outside of the spoiler section. But is there anything you guys want to talk about episodes 1 through 12 that really stood out to you that we haven't said yet?
Not anything that I don't want to put into the non-spoiler section. I think that, the imagery, is solid. Okay. It's pretty decent. They do a pretty good job. I'd say 1 to 12. The imagery alone, is something that I would say is kind of a strong point, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'd say that at this point too, I'm kind of like, what the fuck is this, like, twisted Alice in Wonderland, like, bullshit right now? Like, I want to see, what ends up happening. So that's all I have to say in this section.
And I have a little bit. I just found myself to be pretty involved in the show. Like, I was trying to figure out the mystery. I know I was wrong along the way. Definitely got duped a few times, but I was just like, what is going on? And I just feel like I need to get a wrap on it. I need to know.
Same. I kind of just want to know how it ends. Like, I really want to know how it ends.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go end spoilers now. Welcome back. If you skipped our spoiler section where we went in depth on the first 12 episodes of Angels of Death, and I mentioned it a little bit before we went to spoilers, but there are 4 more episodes of Angels of Death airing, and by the time this podcast comes out, Angels of Death will be ending a week after that, because it has episode 15 came out today. So next Friday, episode 16 will be out and it'll be over. So my suggestion here is, since we've already made Casey watch 12 episodes of Angels of Death, Casey, how do you feel about coming back a week from now and just doing a short video on our reaction to the last 4 episodes of Angels of Death?
Yeah, Casey, come back.
Oh my God. I would be an honored guest if I could come back.
Awesome. So that's great. So we'll go ahead. We'll have a Angels of Death reaction review there. Now, something that we normally do is we review an anime at the end of it. Do you guys want to save your reviews for when we finish it all off, or do you guys have reviews set up for the first 12 episodes?
I think that it would be interesting if we do our review and see if it changes.
Okay. All right. So the way our review system works here, Casey, I know you know about it, but for those of you listening who haven't watched one of our podcasts before, the way the review system works is that we have 3 categories that we separate an anime into. The first being trash, which is an anime that has no redeeming qualities, is pretty bad and just overall terrible, and should be on a don't watch this list. And then we have our second category called the recycling bin, where an anime has some redeeming qualities. Maybe we personally found it good, or we understand that there is an audience for this and there is some quality to it. If you have it on your plan to watch list, go ahead and give it a shot. But if you have no interest in seeing it, don't go out of your way. And then finally, we have a find, which is an anime that we believe is good, has great quality. It's just not for only for us, but for other people as well, and you should add it right to your plan to watch list. So, Casey, since you're our guest, you're going to go last.
Okay.
I do this every time. I just try to get our guests to think that they're going to go first. So, Anthony, how about you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as this anime goes, starting off pretty strong with kind of how we were kind of talking about it before the spoiler section. The first impressions were definitely, I would say that I was surprised in a positive direction. I'd say that over the course of the first 12 episodes, this anime does a really good job on a few things, and I'll list those in kind of some orders. I would say that character development, specifically where it needs to be on our 2 main protagonists, our first protagonist being Rachel, and then kind of our anti-hero protagonist in Zach. I'd say that they develop the characters fairly well. They do it in a correct manner where they show us and tell us. They do a great job of progressing that particular story. Where I think that they also excel as well is in the use of imagery. What they're showing us on screen at the correct times. The show, in that sense, is very smart. That if you are watching and you're watching intently, it does have little nuances that you'll get sucked into, and you'll start to question, wait a minute, why was that there? In that sense that it does have a very attractive kind of feel to it. What I think that this show does very poorly is the progression of the plot itself. I personally felt like this anime tends to kind of slow at unnecessary points and really drags on some unfortunate areas, specifically in the last few episodes where it really just drags its feet. To me personally, it feels like the director was trying to squeeze out a little more content just for an extra season, and that felt a little cheap to me. Personally, I'd say that as far as the plot and characters are concerned, we had some pretty interesting characters that were definitely storyboarded and have some pretty cool concepts, developed about them with nifty little quirks. However, the dialogue in between characters at times can be very clunky and at some point pretty cringy in the delivery, and this very well might be on the dub or sub that you decide to watch, but personally it felt a little clunky and a little sloppy in some areas as well. That being said, as we normally do, we give kind of that direction. This show for me, while I will be watching the final episodes, this show for me is kind of a recycle bin. It's not a great show, and it's definitely not the worst that we have seen, especially from a genre like this, where it is a show that's based off of a video game that actually does a pretty good job of introducing you to the content. The show doesn't force you to have prior knowledge of it, and therefore it does a pretty decent job of exposing you to Angels of Death. That being said, it's a recycle bin for me.
Cool. like you said, for me, a big thing that the show does great is the character development. I feel like the characters are not the same characters that we started out with because they have grown, and that is something that's way important for me. I love it in like a comedy show when a character doesn't grow, like if they stay the same from point A to point B because it's a comedy. But when a character grows in a show like this, a drama, it's fantastic. It makes that drama it makes the drama better because you're not only seeing how the character like is growing growing inside their like as themselves, but how they react with that growth to other things. Like, oh, well, now they're reacting to the situation that in a way that they would never have reacted in a manner multiple episodes ago. They're reacting in a because they're not that same character anymore. And I love that, and I think the show does an amazing way of doing that. But like Anthony also said, the pacing in the show is just terrible. I think that it starts out really slow, kind of gets a good footing, and then just slows down. And then a big part for the show for me is the relationship and the interactions between our two protagonists. And at a certain point in the show, they kind of abandon that, like right when it starts taking off. And I think that's just such a foolish mistake, and kind of did halt some of my interest. But I did really enjoy watching the show. It's kind of like, it's not one of those shows that I sit there and I'll tell people to watch at the end of the day. But I'll sit there with a bag of popcorn and just turn my brain off and enjoy it. Because it's just a very fun watch, I guess. It also does a great job, like Anthony said, introducing you to the Angels of Death universe. Because I won't lie, when I found out that it's based off of a game, I kind of wanted to play the game just to see how it is. So my rating for it is going to be exactly like Anthony's. I'm putting it in the recycle bin, because I'm a child. No, what the fuck? Recycle bin. And I'm interested to see if I think if the next 4 episodes are solid, it might be able to pull it out. I think I did enjoy it, but not enough for me to go tell people to watch it. But if you do have an interest in it, you should definitely start it out. Okay, Casey, take us home.
So, I have to agree with character development. It was a very important part of, what gets me interested in a show, is watching the characters grow. And, to compare it to, a really good anime, I'm not going to say the anime's name, but, a better anime, I would be sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for the next episode to come out. And I wouldn't say I was like that for this show. There was definitely low points where I couldn't really pick it back up. I was like, oh, that sucked. And but there was times where I was just like, I want to know what happens. What's going on? They left on a pretty good cliffhanger, and they had a couple here or there I need to watch the next episode right now. Granted, I binge watched it, but it definitely had some very pulling ideas to it. There's things that I was drawn towards it. And if I was to give it a review, I would like to give a metaphor. So you're walking down an alleyway, and you run into a dead end. You look to your left, and you see a homeless man taking a dump, and you're like, I'm not going that way. And you look to the right, and you see a bunch of glass and a couple dumpsters. You walk by, and you happen to see a piece of glass that looks like a cat, and you're like, I might keep this. It's pretty cool, but it barely looks like a cat. It's pretty rough. It should go on the recycling bin.
I thought you were going to go find.
Yeah, so did I.
But if I can find the remaining pieces of the cat because it's missing its tail with the last 4 episodes, it might be a find. If it really, really pulls it together at the end, I will recommend the show.
Yeah. Okay.
So right now, I'm really looking forward to watching the next 4 episodes, seeing if it's worth it, or if I'm just going to throw it in the dumpster because I was so upset.
Casey, we watched
So
the
I-
episodes. Casey spikes the cat onto the floor.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, there's like really good character development. There is really rough dialogue, and that's about it for me.
Okay. All right. So right now, Angels of Death is sitting at 3 recycle bins. So in a week, when we do our review, we'll see if that changes at all.
maybe it gets worse.
It could get worse.
If it gets worse, I'll be so bummed.
I'm gonna be bummed out too if it gets worse.
I'll be pretty bummed, but for this show, I
It's par
don't
the
have
course.
I don't have high expectations for it. I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Just to hopefully not to give anything away, before the second core before episode 13 came out of the show, my anime list rating for it was a 7.2. It's now 6.9.
Oh no.
Ooh.
So I'm curious though. I'm wondering if people are rating it who are starting out and rating it, because my anime list is a flawed rating system.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because people can watch one episode of a show, rate it a 1, and that's bringing down a show. Because they're like, I didn't like it. I didn't like that first episode. It made me cry. But we'll see. We'll see how it works. Now, we're going to talk about an anime, which is our currently airing anime of the season. And so for the fall season, I chose, and I didn't let anyone give me an idea of what I wanted to pick. I picked an anime. And I picked an anime having no idea what it was about, because let me tell you something about this anime's marketing campaign. It didn't have one. It had one trailer release, and it had test audiences watch it, but they weren't allowed to say what it was about. They just were allowed to say like if they liked it or if they didn't. And everybody's like, "Oh, we liked it." And people are like, "So what was it about?" And they're like, "We cannot say." And that anime is Zombieland Saga. And I don't know how to give a brief synopsis of it without just say I get my brief synopsis is watch the first episode of Zombieland Saga.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm like, watch the first episode of Zombieland Saga, then come back and watch this podcast. So we're gonna dive on into Zombieland Saga. So Zombieland Saga is made by Studios Mappa, and I don't know, Anthony, if you remember, but Studio Mappa made Yuri on Ice.
Mm-hmm.
So we already talked about this for a bit. It is not based off anything. It's an original anime.
Whew. Man, perfect.
Yeah, right? So we're just gonna we're just gonna jump right on into it. The next time we talk about this, we'll have more lead up to it, but like right now, since just the first 3 episodes are out, you got to watch that first episode. You got to be surprised yourself about what this anime is about. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start the spoiler section now. Go ahead and skip to the time above if you don't want to be spoiled about the first 3 episodes of Zombieland Saga. So, okay. Zombieland Saga. What the fuck is this show?
I am so...
Oh man!
I am so... Like, I had the same reaction when we were watching Magical Girl Ore, so I do not want to... I don't want to set myself up for failure, but oh my god. Oh my god.
I was just like, oh, she's a happy little girl. She's going to school. When's the zombies gonna happen? Oh, that's a truck.
She got fucking hit by a truck.
She got hit by a truck.
It's ridiculous. And to me, I
first
know
4
DJ's
minutes.
going to love this anime. I think that he's going to love it.
You think he's gonna love it?
It is, the first episode alone is so, it's so good. It's so good.
Good.
I'm going to cry. I am going to cry.
Yeah, it was pretty damn good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about that first episode. Like Casey said, we have our main character Sakura. She's
so
just this teenage girl. She's about
Oh, she's
Go ahead.
she's so happy. She's just so happy.
She's so happy. She's watching her idol groups on TV, and she's signing up for an idol audition. And so she runs down the stairs, and she's like, I'm off. I'm on my way to submit this thing. And she goes outside and she gets hit by a truck instantly.
Yep, yeah. And I have to say that I knew that something was going to happen just because of like how the captions were, because it's like they have the voice actress like hold that note as well. And I was like, oh god, something's going to happen. I didn't expect for her to get hit by a fucking truck.
Hit by a truck, and while her body is flying through the air, we listen to hardcore screamo death metal
music.
Oh, that was just the best. That was like
shift.
The best interest.
The tonal shift is ridiculous. I love it so much.
And then I'm just like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this anime? I know. And so she ends up hitting the ground, and then it hard cuts, and she wakes up in a mansion where there's a bunch of very distinctly designed zombies attacking her.
I know, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, oh my gosh. These characters are going to be somebody.
Exactly. I'm like, all these zombies are really well detailed.
Yep.
I was like, is she in hell right now? Running from some zombies. Is this another one of them?
Just got done watching Angels of Death. Now we get the opposite.
She's like the only living person in like hell or something, and the rest of them are zombies. And then it continues.
I like her here because she's not like a weak protagonist, because she's like running away from the zombies, and at one point they have her like against the wall, and she grabs a fire poker and like throws it into one's head and pins it to a wall.
Yeah, that was so good.
And she takes off running. She runs outside, and she runs out into the rain, and as she's running away, she comes across a police officer who we find out is possibly the only police officer in this town.
In Saga.
In Saga.
Right? That's
And so he comes across her, and she's like calling for help, and he's freaking out. He's like, oh my god. And she's like, what? And she looks at the mirror that's behind her, and she's a zombie. And then the police officer shoots her in the chest.
And he's like, zombie, and then secret shovel attack.
Yeah, shovel hits him in the back of the head and gets knocked out. And then she wakes up in a dungeon. And out comes this guy in a...
Oh, he's so perfect. He's so good.
In like sunglasses, he's got a vest on, he's got like his jacket on there, and he goes, "Good morning." And she just sits there, and all the zombies are in the room with her, and they're
like,
all just... and he runs, goes up to her face and goes, "I said good morning." And she goes, he goes, "No one's gonna respect you if you don't say it back and louder."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What?" And we find out this man is named Kotaru. And he is Zenus if Zenus was an anime character.
He's like, I like how he like degrades the zombies too. Yeah. He's all like, yeah, you're just filthy zombies.
But he goes, my plan is to make Saga into... my plan is to use you, zombies, to reviolate Saga's dying, commercial business.
Yeah.
It's like, by you guys becoming an idol group.
And she has she, raises her hand, she's like, yeah, but what am I doing here? And he's like, you've been dead for 10 years and now you're a zombie. That's what.
She goes, She goes, how am I a zombie? He goes, well, you've seen zombie movies. She goes, yeah. He goes, well, there you go.
And then it pans to her, and then it pans back to him, and then it pans back to her, and then it pans back to him, and we get a long cut of silence. It is so good. It is so good.
And he goes, what else do you need to know? You're a zombie now, okay? And then he says that they're going to be an idol group. And he goes, don't worry, though, because I've assembled the best idol group. These are the legendary, zombie idols. It's like, I have legendary maiden Yugiri from the era of the Shogunate. Like, I have legendary Ai Mizuno, who used to be a idol in the early 2000s. I have legendary Junko, who was an idol in the 80s. I have legendary Lily, who was a child actress at the peak of prime time. I have legendary Saki, who is a biker gang leader of the turn of the century. And I have legendary Tai Yamada. And she goes, but first she goes, she's about to say something because she's like, wait a minute, I know and she goes, wait a minute. Who? And he goes, legendary Tai Yamada. She goes, yeah.
Yeah, but who is she?
Who is she? She's legendary Tai Yamada. He goes, but why does that make her legendary? He goes, huh? What makes you so legendary? Huh? He goes, fine. From now on, I'm going to refer to you as the only one who's not legendary.
The parallel, yeah. Now that you mentioned it, the parallel between Zenus is uncanny. Uncanny.
And so he tells them that they're going to be an idol group, and their first concert is like later that day.
Later that day, yeah.
And
she's like, but they're zombies, and I can't do this. And he's like, good luck. And then he takes him to the hotel room, and the zombies are just fucking everything up.
Well, I like how he's like, you like my legendary makeup I learned when I worked in Hollywood? Yeah. And, like, that's how come we saw her with, like, she looked normal in the thing, is because he practiced on her. And he's like, yeah, you like my legendary makeup? And they're all, like, biting shit. And so she goes around, she gives them all... No, they're at a death metal rock show. Because it's the only place with an open mic night.
Yeah.
And so they're there, and they're listening to the rock music, and all of them just start headbanging.
Yeah.
And so she quickly grabs, like, Squid, because it's, like, the only thing that keeps all
she's
of them,
like, no.
under control. And she shoves squids in all their mouth, and Kotaro goes, see, Sakura? You got this. And she goes, no, I don't. And he goes, hey, no one out there is expecting anything out of you. Hell, I'm not expecting anything out of you. So you just gotta go out there and destroy those expectations. You got it? And she goes, I can't do this. And he goes, of course you can.
Oh, yeah. And he's like,
perfect.
go!
They get out on stage.
Yep, they get out on stage, and she goes, we're Death Musume. And there's these two, like, rocker guys, and they're like, yeah, you're not metal. What's an idol group doing here? And, like, as they're being taunted, Tai jumps into the legendary Tai Yamada jumps into the crowd, and Sakura has to pull her back in, and everyone thinks that she tried to start a mosh pit before the music started.
Like, whoa, these girls are hardcore.
Like, these girls are hardcore. They're trying to start a mosh pit.
And then right is like she introduces herself, and this is my favorite. Freaking Tamara screams out, "Go, music, go!"
And, like, they're just walking around, and, like, Saki bumps into, like, the megaphone and just starts screeching into the megaphone. And all of them are like, this is crazy! And all of them just start headbanging.
And they're all, like, screaming into their mics and everything. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
And all the death metal guys are like, oh my god! Like, tearing up because it's so awesome. Like, look at them headbang. It's like their necks are broken. And it's because they're, like, full-on headbanging. And Saki joins in, and she's headbanging, and she's screaming into her mic. And she kind of has this vision of, like, an idol concert. She's like, oh, wow, I like that feeling. And she stage dives.
Yeah.
And then it hard cuts, and Saki's, like, outside the mansion, like, sitting there, and she goes,
Zombie
knew
mode.
it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And then there's scenes of, like, the zombies attacking people.
Yeah. Oh, it's perfect.
She goes, but maybe it will. And she hears screams from the inside, and she goes in there, and all the other girls have awakened, except Tai Yamada.
She's trying to eat one of the girls.
She's trying to eat one of the girls.
Oh, God, it's perfect.
And that's just the first episode.
Oh, my
How
gosh, it's
fucking
wild.
crazy was that fucking ride?
It's wild. It is wild.
I watched it, and I went, I'm a fucking genius. I picked this show. I'm amazing.
I was like, I immediately texted DJ. I was like, you need to watch this fucking show. Like, please, please, please.
Yeah, like jumping from Angels of Death to the zombie show, I was like, oh, this is what a good show's supposed to look like?
I know, right? It's kind of like I feel like our seasonal animes that we pick normally always just destroy every anime we watch.
Yep.
And so
Amen.
every anime we watch is just more terrible because the seasonal anime is so good.
Oh, it's 100%.
So we get into the second episode, which is by far my favorite episode so far.
I think so too, yeah.
And so the second episode, and all the girls are awake, and we get another meeting in the basement.
Yeah.
And Kotaro comes out and goes, "Good morning." And no one says good morning again. He goes, "I said good morning." And he tells them that he's like, "Well, you guys can go outside, but I'll let you know that if you go outside, you'll die." And he loads up a video that's called 5 clips of zombies dying or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's all these zombies getting destroyed. He goes, "That's what will happen to you if you go outside."
Well, he's not wrong.
He's not.
No, absolutely not.
Like, Sakura even goes like, "Yeah, he's right. I got shot."
Yeah.
And so he tells them that their next concert is going to be tomorrow, and so they have to practice tonight for it. And so Sakura kind of starts developing, like, Sakura's trying to do it, and I love this part because they're practicing, and he's going, good, okay, good, okay. All right, now start it over, but do it good.
She's the only one that's practicing.
She's the only one that's practicing. Everyone else is kind of bumming out. Yuguri's like smoking opium.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like, "Oh, we're zombies." And Tayamata still hasn't woken up.
Oh, I hope. Oh my God, this is the funniest joke of the entire series. I hope that she never wakes up. I hope that
She's
she's
just a regular zombie the whole time.
She's a zombie all the time.
and so so at one point Saki, who's like the gang leader, it gets upset with Sakura because she doesn't like people who just follow orders for no reason. She doesn't like people without backbone. And Sakura, like, kind of scared of her, is trying to explain to her that she's not doing it because she's just blindly following orders, but because she wants to do it. And she can't really get that out, so Saki's just dismissing her as a weakling.
Mm-hmm.
And Sakura also notices that Ai Mizuno, who is one of the idols, who was actually an idol before she died, is there. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but Ai is actually one of the idols on the TV screen that Sakura is watching in the first episode before she gets hit by the truck.
Really?
Yes. So that's where Sakura's about to point out that she knows Ai before Tayamata got introduced.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so
which one? What was the? Who's the one with the silver hair?
That's Junko.
Junko. God, she's also really funny. The interactions between her and Tai are
because
hilarious.
Tai's always attacking her.
She just keeps trying to bite me, and she's like, "You'll get used to it. It's okay."
Oh yeah, because in that first episode when Sakura goes like, "How are we supposed to perform?" Also, this one's been biting me for about 13 minutes, and it's Tai. And so Ai sneaks off because she's trying to escape, and while she's outside, she ends up running into Junko, who also is trying to escape. And they both scream and alert Sakura of their location. And Sakura follows them out to basically keep track of them, saying, "Hey, we can't be out here. We're gonna get we're gonna get killed because people don't like zombies." And as they're walking in the middle of the street, like in the dark, this car pulls up, and out walk 3 rappers.
Yeah, what? I love how this show is it's not afraid to be itself. I love that. It does not have an identity crisis. This show knows who the fuck it is.
And so these rappers are rapping about, like, "Hey, look at these 3 girls. Let's take them to karaoke. Like, Don't worry, it's on us."
They're like rapping to like a beat too. That like this is so corny.
It's funny because one of them is doing like English, So
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
rapping,
yeah.
and you hear the okay.
Yeah, like yo, 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 yo.
And so, they get up there, and they have the girls like in a corner, and then all of a sudden you hear a different guy rapping, and he's like, and it's the police officer.
Yeah, yeah.
And the police officer basically does a verse saying like he's going to throw those guys in jail because they're harassing women. And then the girls turn around, and then the police officer freaks out again because he's seen zombies before. And they all start, and then he fires his gun, and they all start screaming.
They scream, the rappers scream, and he screams, and they oh my god, it's just a wild ride of a show.
Then they run away, and then it hard cuts to them, like, well, it shows Kotaro is there watching them. So, and I'll bring up something later when we talk about these 3 episodes together. So then it hard cuts to them getting like their makeup done. Oh wait, no, there goes back to like practice, right? Because then Saki and Sakura have like another interaction.
Yeah.
And so then they get their makeup done in the van, and he's like fucking plastering it on with like
with like a paintbrush.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they all look like their normal girl selves. And so they go out and they go to perform. They're at a shrine that's doing like open, like there's like a wind, wind instrument, like a group from like a high school playing, and like another group like playing. And so they're there too. And so they also changed their name to Green Face in this episode because it's because they're stepping away from death metal.
Yeah.
And so they go out there, and two of our fans from the last episode are in the audience.
I guess they're expecting Death Musume.
They're expecting Death Musume. And so they go out there, and Tai sees that somebody has squid. And so she's like, she's trying to get at it, and Sakura's like, Tai, no, blah. And so she ends up pulling on Tai's arm too hard that her arm flops off, and she hits the ground, and her head flops into the guy's lap. And this is the chillest dude. Like, this dude just gets a girl's head, and he's like, do you want some? And he feeds her squid. And then Sakura quickly, like, oh, this is a trick. Oh, we're magic. We're a magic trick. Look at this. We're magic. And she goes, Saki,
all of the old folks are like, yeah, this is great.
Cool. And so she goes, Saki, put her head on. And Saki keeps taking her head off. Like, oh, wow, look at this. This is crazy, isn't it? And, like, they get into this fight where Sakura keeps trying to put Tai's head on, and Saki keeps taking it off. And so Sakura eventually just fucking slaps Tai's head, like, out of her hands and just starts rapping at her. She's like, are you an idiot? People are going to find out we're zombies. How about we don't do that? And Saki raps back at her, like, hey, like, you're not my boss. And then Kotaro, being the fucking mastermind he is, starts beatboxing. And then Yugiri takes out, like, her fucking, like, I don't know what instrument that is. It's that, like, long guitar.
Yeah, hold on. I'll think of it.
Okay. She starts playing that on beat, going like, yo, yeah, yo. And I'm like, what is happening? Are they're rap battling? And
yep.
I have watched the sequence like 20 times.
It's so good.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
it was pretty amazing.
The voice actors deliver is like, oh my gosh, they deliver perfectly in that sequence right there. Like, it's so good. And like the child actress, I forget her name too. She gets into it.
Yeah,
oh
Lily.
my gosh.
She's like getting the crowd into it.
Yeah.
But
I love how the old people are like, they're clapping on beat too. Like,
well, that's where, like, Sakura burns Saki. She burns the two idols. She burns the old people, and then she throws the mic down.
She's like, oh.
And so they make it a success. Everyone loves it. And Saki, Lily, Yugiri, and Tai, to an extent, because she's still a zombie, all kind of join Sakura, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we're on board for this idol thing.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty cool. Meanwhile, Junko and I are the only ones who are like, eh.
Yeah.
Which then brings us to our third episode, where this motherfucker. Kotaro is the fucking best.
Yeah, he is.
He walks in and he's like, "Good morning. Good morning." And he's like trying to like get Lily to like interact. And they're like, "You're scaring her." And he's like, "What am I trying? I'm trying to be nice."
It's just so goofy.
He goes, you guys did good. And he goes, "Sakura, good job." And she goes, "Thanks." He goes, "Don't get full of yourself, Sakura, you idiot. You're still a zombie, you moron." And it's like, oh, okay.
God, I love it. I love it so much. And their next show, he tells them that it's going to be in a day, right? It's going to be
tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, because it's a gorilla show, which is like a
gorilla
flash
show.
mob.
Yeah.
He goes to write gorilla, and he writes G, A, and then he crosses it out, and he writes it in Japanese. And they're like, oh, he couldn't spell it. And really quick here, I forgot to bring this up, but what do you guys think of the opening?
I was going to bring it up at the end.
Okay.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's nonsense. It's amazing. It's this show.
I love the freaking zombies that are like dancing with Kotaro and whatever. It was awesome.
Okay, so oh my god, it's so good. So then the next part of this is we get them practicing, and they kind of realize, practicing is a little hard if you don't have like a name. Like if they have to become an idol group before they can really practice as an idol group. And so they said that they need a leader, and Saki nominates herself. And no one really has a problem with it, which I thought was weird. Like, because I thought Sakura would be the leader, but Saki kind of just says like, "Hey, I'll be leader," and they go, "Okay."
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's going to be a point of contention.
Okay, I think so too. I think like when some of the other idol girls like get more into it, I think maybe they'll want to be like the leader.
Yeah.
The part I thought was great here is that they're going through the names, and they're all thinking of like these cutesy names, and Saki keeps writing it in kanji, which kanji has like each character means a different word.
Yeah.
So these kanji letters keep spelling out like horrible things, like it's like gross smell, and they're like, "Don't write it in kanji." And like it's a funny joke. I imagine it'd be even funnier if we knew Japanese.
Yeah.
But there's another part. Eventually, what the fuck happens? Junko ends up like catching the pen or whatever, and Tai starts chasing her.
And she like throws it again, and then Tai gets hold of the marker and she sticks it in her mouth.
And they're like, "Tai, you can't eat that." And they're like, "Well, I mean,
she's dead. What does it matter?"
So what would it do? And so she ends up like sneezing, and they're like, "Oh, Tai sneezed." And then Lily goes, "No, Tai didn't sneeze. She's giving us a name." They're like, "What? We have to be something new. We are Fran Shushu."
Fran Shushu.
And then they go, "Fran Shushu," and Saki writes it in kanji, and it's like a horrible, disgusting smell. And they go, "Stop writing it in kanji." So they end up practicing, and they kind of fail at it. And so the 5 girls who are on board are all kind of sulking in like a playground that Kotaro has like attached to the house. And 4 of them are sitting on like this spinning thing, and Tai just keeps spinning it. And as they're all complaining, Saki and Lily go, "Oh, but fuck, this is going too fast," and they both get off. And Sakura's still sitting there, like, what? Like, how can we get more into it? And then Tai just stops it abruptly, launching Sakura in the air, and Sakura remembers their first performance and how that made her feel, and she abruptly hits the ground.
She like cracks her head on the ground.
Yeah.
And then she gets up and she goes, "Guys, who cares if we're zombies? It's about how we..." And she gets slapped in the face by Yagiri. And Yagiri goes, "Hey, Sakura, who cares if we're zombies?" And just says Sakura's entire speech to her. And Sakura goes, I was going to say that. And Saki goes, "You know what? Yuguri's got me fired up." And Lily's like, "Yeah, good job, Yuguri." And they go, everybody go, yeah! And Sakura goes, yeah. And so they go off and they practice, and they still kind of have some faults, but they're revitalized. And then they go with the gorilla performance. And it's going pretty well at first. Like, they're, Junko, and, oh, wait, fuck, I forgot to bring this up. Junko and I leave the rehearsal, and they run into Kataru. And this is, like, the one serious moment Kataru has, and it's a really good, like, quote.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's sitting there, and they go, like, we don't want to do this idol thing again. We already did it. We started from the bottom, we're back, like, we made it to the top, and now we have to do it over again. I don't want to do it over again. And he goes, hey, you're a zombie now. You have a second chance at life. Like, all the other girls, they're making the best of it. Like, they're living. Like, how long are you going to just sit there and rot? And I'm like, oh my god. Like, that's a good metaphor in life in general. It's like, people are out there living their lives. Do what you want it. Like, you should live your life too, not just go through the motions. And I'm like, that's good. I'm like, all right, show. All right.
Yep, I agree.
You can make me laugh, and you can make me go,
Yeah. Which is what was so good about Cells at Work.
Yeah, make me laugh and make me go,
Specifically those things.
It's
oh my gosh. They go to the they go to the gorilla show.
They go to do the gorilla show, and it starts out working pretty good. They get they get a crowd going. Junko and I are in the van because they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then this is my only gripe, and I think it might be on purpose.
I think it's a joke. I know what you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure it's a joke. It's a parody of something.
Because it's all really bad CG.
Oh, God, it's so bad.
And I think it's a parody on Vocaloids, right?
Yeah, something like that, or Love Live, Love Live.
Yeah, I think it has to be a parody of the, other... Because the whole show is kind of a parody on the idol show genre in general. And I feel like that's a staple in, like, idol shows, right? Is, like, the performances to be CG. So I feel like it's parodying that on purpose.
Yeah.
And so I think if you see it as that, it's not too bad, but it's still just kind of jarring to see.
It's clunky.
It's clunky.
That's my only... I do agree. That's my only complaint.
So, like, right now, I think it's a joke. But I think if every performance from now on is CG, it's going to seriously hurt the show. But right now, I think it's a joke.
Well, like, you get in the opening scene, they, like, join forces, and they're, like, fighting monsters and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very true.
They're becoming, like, Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And it's pretty smooth. So I feel like it's probably a joke.
It's probably a joke. Okay. Oh, here's a fun fact for you guys. You know the rap sequence in episode 2? Completely animated by a single animator.
What?
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot of work. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. I also have another fun fact, because we're about to talk about him right now. Because as they're going through this gorilla show, our favorite police officer shows up, and he's like, yo, 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 you guys got your permits? If you don't, I'm going to arrest you, because I can do that, because I'm a police officer. And then they jump into the truck and
Well, first... They fail during the gorilla show.
Yeah.
They fuck up the gorilla show, and Junko and I come out and kind of help save it, and they get one fan at the end of it. It's this little girl, and then the police officer shows up, and Anthony, this sequence of them driving away is fucking great.
It's hilarious.
Go,
oh my
go,
gosh.
go, 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 okay, go. They just hastily drive away.
It's like they drive in circles. It's hilarious. Do you know... Here's a fun fact. Do you know who plays the police officer?
Hiroyuki Yoshino.
Yeah. He is frickin' Mike from My Hero Academia.
Really? He's Present Mike?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I recognized the cop's voice. I was like, hey, wait a minute. That sounds familiar. Because he, like, gets all high and scratchy, and he's like, yo, 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 when he's, like, rapping and stuff. I was like, oh, my gosh, I recognize that guy.
That's cool. That's neat. There you go. Hey, thanks for the fun fact there, Anthony.
You're welcome. That's why they call me Fun Fact Anthony.
Okay, and so that's wraps up the first 3 episodes of Zombieland Saga, and with the 4th episode clearly being a bathhouse episode.
Probably. Yep. Yeah.
I'm expecting a performance in the bathhouse.
Same.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on the first 3 episodes of this show?
I don't want it to fail. I don't want it to magical girl ore me. Please.
It was good. It was just a solid show. Like, through and through, I was invested, and I was just like, wow, these zombies can make it. I can make it.
Casey's going to be in an idol group now.
I can make it big.
I gotta say, I'm enjoying this. I'm so happy that I'm watching this show.
Me too.
Yeah. So, standard question here, guys. Who's your favorite girl?
Sakura.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, mine's Saki.
Okay, all right. Listen here, biker girl.
What? Her design's cool. She raps. She's the leader.
Sakura raps, and Sakura's gonna be
And
the leader underneath Tay.
Oh, she's
The true kid. True
change
leader.
my best girl.
True
yeah.
leader.
Yeah, change my best girl. She's the best zombie.
Okay. Something I want to bring up is so I've been listening to the Nerd Blaze's reaction videos to every episode, and a common thing that one of them keeps bringing up is Kitaro being evil. Like, do you guys get that feeling from him? Like, what do you guys like? One of the theories that they're coming up with is that Kitaro is the one that turned them all into zombies, and he's like has this malicious intent with them. Like he won't let them leave, and he's like kind of a kidnapper. Do you guys get that like at all?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I think he's a good guy, but there's suspicious, like, in the fact that he found the zombies. I kind of feel like he made the zombies a little bit.
Okay, I could kind of see I could see it in the sense that, like, he probably has some ulterior motives, but I don't think that they're any way malicious or, like, they have, like, malintent towards the girls themselves, or even in general. I honestly feel like he's just a quirky part of the anime.
I think he wants to save Saga. I think that's his genuine
Oh,
goal.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think he did make the girls zombies, but not like he went around murdering these girls and turning them into zombies. I think he just resurrected people with talent.
Yeah, yeah.
And then one I kind of wanted to save for Jeff, but I've been trying to wrap my head around it because I think I agree with him. Is Jeff has a theory that Sakura doesn't die when she gets hit by the truck. Because she has no memories. Like she gets hit by the truck, survives, becomes a famous idol, and then dies in a different way. Is his theory. And
10 years went by and...
Well, she supposedly died 10 years ago. We don't know when she got hit by the truck.
Well, it was before she was an idol.
Well, yeah, I mean, she got hit by the truck, became an idol maybe, and then 10 years from that died, and then 10 years from now is when the show is. Because
yeah, I was just thinking, Sakura is like the most untalented of the bunch. You don't have any like history of her having any talent.
Yeah, like why bring her back if you're going to bring up all these other people? Like, and also legendary Taiyamata, who knows what she is?
Yeah, I don't know. I can get behind the tinfoil hat theory there for for just the sake that like it would add, some extra conflict, and who can't do without more of that. Like I like that. I don't know. Come on.
Okay.
What?
Well, I think I 100% am on board with that because what? She's just busting out all this talent and she was never an idol?
Well, she recorded that, the CD or her demo or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think there's some. I don't think it's like solid like footing for this theory, but I think it's there. I think that it has the ability to be there. So
I believe this theory as a fact.
Casey's like, it is now a fact. Anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. So then my last question I want to present to you, and I'm going to present this to DJ when he comes back, is do you think what special, do you believe that there's anything actually special about legendary Taiyamata?
I think she's a zombie. I think
You think
that's all.
that's all. She's just a
Oh,
zombie?
man.
I hope that that's what it is because that is the funniest joke of the whole
Do you
the
hope
whole
she
series.
ever wakes up, or you just want her to be a zombie?
I
the
always
entire
want her to
series?
be a zombie. I think that's going to be hilarious. Calling it now. If they do it, it's going to be epic.
Okay.
I think she is going to save one of the shows by waking up during a show.
Oh, and she'll just bust out like a solo.
Whatever
out of nowhere?
whatever crazy skill she's got.
Okay. Part of me thinks that she knows Sakura. Because that would, like, because again, Sakura's the only one who really has no memories left from her when she was alive. So I feel like Tai would, like, wake up and just be like, oh my god, Sakura. And it would be like, what? And then kick off episodes 11 and 12.
Yeah, right. Turns out she's the bad guy.
She's the zombie. The zombie person who made people
Yeah.
into zombies. And yeah, but I guess that's all I have to say about Zombieland Saga. Is a show I really fucking love right now.
Yeah, it is so good.
Anything else from you, Casey?
Oh, no. I think that wraps it up for me.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna end our discussion on Zombieland Saga now. Welcome back. If you skipped the part about Zombieland Saga, seriously, to quote Anthony, stop what you're doing right now. I don't care how important it is. Go watch Zombieland Saga.
Anthony approves that message.
Casey,
Good show.
Casey, something I asked our last guest when they were watching Cells at Work with us is, will you continue watching Zombieland Saga?
Yes.
Yep, you will.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, our next podcast is going to be 2 weeks from now. We will be talking about the next two episodes of Zombieland Saga, 4 and 5. And we're going to have our regular crew back. We're going to have me, DJ Anthony, and also special guest Jeff, host of the Anime Ricochet podcast on the Nerd Blaze. And we are going to be talking about an anime called Magical Girl Sight. It is a edgy magical girl show. So that's going to be fun. Casey, are you going to watch that show and then listen to the podcast?
I'll listen to the podcast.
You're like, I'm not watching that show.
I'm not watching that show.
All right, and special thanks to our guest, Casey, for coming on this podcast and sharing his thoughts on Angels of Death, as well as talking about the beginning of Zombieland Saga. Casey, you want to plug your channel one more time?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch at VikingLightning. And we also have a Discord, Astro Game Labs. If you're interested in that, it'll be in the link below.
Awesome, and thank you so much again, Casey, for coming on here. It was really great having you.
Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here.
Thanks.
Anthony, Casey told them where they can find him. Where can they find us?
Well, thankfully, you can find us on the links down below. Our Twitters are definitely linked, and as Casey had mentioned below, we are part of the Discord, Astro Game Labs. Feel free to come by and say hey, argue with us about bad anime. We would love that.
Anthony still has a hate boner for the Diabolic Lovers community. He wants a fight.
So, and also subscribe for more if you guys like our content here on the channel. We, as Jake mentioned, we release podcasts every 2 weeks.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. You guys have anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Go, 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 go,
Go, go, go, go, go.